this like your murder room? Like, I'm suddenly very concerned.
No. Wait, why would you think it's my murder room? I thought you would enjoy it.
That's like the American Horror Story up there. The other one's like, oh, that's Chucky. Oh my God.
That is an original Chucky right there. How dare you?
This is awful.
Yes. What?
I'm going to just pretend I'm not looking at any of, oh my God. What? We walked in here like only an hour ago and I didn't notice any of it. I'm so observant.
I mean, obviously you can tell that my studio, my room is mine, and the rest of the house is decorated by the wife. that is a definite fact.
I was like, oh, the house is so nice. And then I'm like, this room is terrifying.
I love it. Yeah, and these are all my Obey paintings, and okay. I like it. I don't know, maybe I got different tastes than a lot of people, but
that's cool.
Yeah, for me, it's home. It makes me feel comfortable. So how you doing?
To each their own. I like your glasses.
Well, thank you so much.
They're very cool.
They're Tom Ford. Shout out to Tom Ford. The wifey bought them for me for Christmas.
She's got good taste.
Yeah, she does. Well, I told her to buy them for me.
Oh, okay.
No, she has really good taste, actually.
I feel like if people are listening to this, they have to go watch it now because they have to see your glasses. Because we're talking about things you can't see.
They're badass, bitches. So.
Oh, sorry, that was my cup.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally hear everything on these microphones. They're delicious. Why are you laughing?
Because I'm slurping. It's embarrassing. I'm not used to hearing everything.
Are you nervous?
Maybe. I'm going to hear my stomach grumbling at some point, too.
Anytime that I start these podcasts, I always get a little excited, so maybe nerves. And
you're so excited. Like, you're like a little kid.
I am. I fucking love this shit, I mean, getting to talk to cool, like, amazing people, getting to hear their story, it fascinates me, it's just... ever since I was a little kid, that's what I did. I would always ask people, like, what's your story? And then eventually it turned into back to your story. So that's kind of where we're at today. So for the people listening, I would like for you to introduce yourself. Kind of start it off there.
Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kym Nonstop. That
was good.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can probably rattle off the lyrics to any 90s hip-hop song that ever existed. So
Gangsta.
There's that. I'm a fitness professional.
Ooh.
With a very long resume. I was a founding Soulcycle instructor there from the beginning of time. I've also done a host of insane things in my life, such as worked as a bike messenger in New York City, raced every alley cat in New York City, raced and won every alley cat in New York City, which for most people listening probably don't know what that is. It's an illegal street race.
I love that.
I've raced, have a long cycling career racing. And I don't know, I've done a lot of other things, crazy things. I have a YouTube channel.
There we go. I love it. I mean,
and I create fitness programming for bodybuilding.com, Nordic Track, Shape. So I guess I would say I'm best known for my fitness, but I'm also very cycling famous. Like if I go to a bike race, I feel like that's where people stop me the most.
Oh my gosh.
And I was on The Amazing Race.
Gangster.
Episode 20 or season 25.
Season 25.
Wow, I was on a whole season.
I didn't even know they had 25 seasons.
I think they have like 30 now.
Oh my gosh.
It's been around.
It seriously has. For you, your resume definitely is massive. When we first were talking, though, off the podcast, you said that. What did you say? You're like, I've never had a normal job, or what did you say?
I've never had to wear business clothes.
There we go. And I find that amazing, because what that says about you is that you've been able to shape your life on your own terms, getting to do what you love best.
You could say that,
yes.
Or you could also say I just wasn't ever employed by people.
Well, I was going to get to that. But I think it's the latter. I definitely think it's the other way around.
I definitely didn't pine for a cubicle or an office.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I do want to say something while I'm doing this podcast. If I kind of do this, I'm just making sure that it's still running. Sure. Okay. So don't think I'm not paying attention to you. No. All right. Let's bring it back to your story. So where does your story start? Where did Kym grow up?
Do you always want to start with the growing up?
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Fine.
It's back to your story. We'll get to the good stuff.
Okay. I grew up in a lot of places. My folks were younger, not as young as your buddy who is on earlier. 18 is crazy.
That's amazing, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I agree with him that like when you have younger parents, there's like a real benefit, I think, to them figuring their lives out as you're growing up, because you see so much, you learn so much from that. And my folks were, I mean, my mom was 21 when she had me, so pretty young, but they were married and they figuring their life out. And so we moved a lot. I was the first child, so we moved a lot. I just remember living in New York City, upstate, Syracuse, way upstate, like Watertown. And then PG, Prince George's County, DC, Baltimore. I lived in Philly for a little bit after college. So I usually say I'm from New York because that's where I've lived the most of my adult years. But I went to high school and middle school in the Baltimore area. So I kind of say, like, I grew up in Baltimore. I don't know. It depends on who I talk to. It's like, what does it matter?
Well, I mean, I guess maybe to the person asking you.
At some point, I'm going to have to pin down my story.
Yes.
So maybe this is the beginning of me doing that.
Yes, it's the beginning of you locking down your story.
I do want to write a book at some point. So I gotta solidify the story.
I love that. I love that when people want to write a book about their story, who they are and where they came from.
So I feel like we're workshopping it right
yes,
now. Like
we're just kind of working through the ideas.
If only we had a live audience, I'd know what was worthwhile. You know, be like, oh, that got a laugh. Oh, there's a tear. You know, oh, definitely keeping
we
that
see
one.
her. We see she's crying. Keep it.
It's a keeper.
She's the keeper. Okay, so New York, Baltimore, all of that shit. Growing up in New York, what is that like? Because for me, I grew up in Los Angeles, and the weather is warm,
That
not
explains
that cold.
the tattoos.
Yes, does it? What does that mean?
I just feel like if you grow up in LA, you don't get out of growing up in LA without being covered in tattoos. That's my perception. I don't know.
No, you might be right. I guess for me, I never thought that I was even going to be able to get tattoos, but then I just ended up getting tattoos, and my job allowed me to get tattoos.
I have to say, from listening to your podcast, I did not picture you to look this way.
Really? What does that mean?
No, I think you've done a really good job of being what you're trying to achieve. You're listening to people and like doing a really good job at interviewing, and like listen to what we know as like late night TV show hosts and interview people. We see them on the news, and we see like, you know, even like the comedians. They're all like very straight laced. So I guess I pictured you, and I knew that you worked like, you know, in businesses, and like, I don't know. I was just like, I pictured you to be a little more straight laced. And I was just like, you come out in like no one's listening to this knows what you look like, but you're wearing a Misfits t-shirt and you're covered in tattoos, and they're good tattoos. They're not shitty. I mean,
they're
maybe
decent.
some of them are shitty, but most of them are good. There is a Mickey Mouse on his left hand.
Yes.
So there's that. But other than that,
I love that. You know, but I get it. Well, actually, I don't get it, but I understand, and I guess I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know if that wasn't racist, but maybe like that would be like, you know, when people called Barack Obama like, he's very articulate. Like, yes. I wonder if that's what I just did to you.
Okay, maybe. But I appreciate that, you know, because you know, for me, it's I don't know. It's just who I am, and if you pictured me differently, well, right. Fuck you. No, I'm just joking.
I mean, for the record, people, I have orange hair and I have tattoos, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But
no, respect.
He's so well-spoken.
He's so well-spoken. All right, so we're gonna bring back to your story. So growing up in New York City, or no?
No.
Where in New York?
I mean, I moved to New York City when I was 21.
Okay.
So before that, my mom is a New Yorker. She was born and raised in the Bronx. So my mom's very Bronx, and my dad was upstate. So, I didn't live in New York City except for when I was really young. Right. So it's really my formation in New York is mostly as a young adult.
Nice. Nice.
But I've spent a long time. The majority of my life has been spent in New York City.
Wow. So. Wow. Definitely way different than California. That is for sure.
It is. I appreciate what it gave me. Yeah. I think it gave me like a super strong hustle.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we'll get to this later, but the nickname Nonstop is like, I never stopped. I was just like, go time all the time, you know, and that is New York. If I had grown up in LA, I don't think I would have had this I wouldn't be the person I am now.
Of course not. You know, I don't know. I kind of always talk about this. People that grow up on the East Coast, New York, you know, Baltimore, you know, wherever it's very cold, 6 months out of the year, it's a different type of animal. You're a different type of person because me, grew up in LA, I'm kind of, you know, lax and chill.
Right.
But environment, weather plays such a big role. And so when you go to New York, these people that are on their grind, they're hustling, right. They're pushing. I think it's a direct correlation of many things, but also the weather. The weather plays a huge role.
You know, I never thought of that, that the weather was part of it. But I think about, okay, in the summertime, people are way more, not lazy, but like we're way more like, let's party in the summer in New York. But there's also something else that created the culture in New York. Definitely. It's not the weather, because there's other cold places. Yeah. There's places that are cold year round and they don't grind like that. And sometimes you just hibernate. Yeah. And so New Yorkers do not hibernate.
They don't.
I think it's a combination of like the environment too. Like you're living on top of people surrounding you.
Yes.
The Uber driver was telling me that he went to the club in New York City. He arrived there at 10 p.m. He was like one of the only people there. And he was just like, oh man, are we at the right place? You know? And then he said, as he was at the party, they're like, no, don't worry, things just pop off later. As he's at the party, it starts snowing. And he's like, he's an Angelino. And he's like, well, shit, no one's coming out tonight. Like, this is going to be a dead party. Yeah. It's snowing. It starts hailing. It's coming down. By midnight, the club is packed. And people are just in there, and they're not going to leave until like for 2 days.
Yes,
like,
it's true.
That's New York. Because no one wants to be snowed in their house. No, like, we don't have space. We don't have yards. We don't have comfort. Like, New York is an uncomfortable place, and I think that's why people grind so hard.
I get that. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Living on top of one another. Right. All of these different things definitely play into who you are as an individual. So, you know, growing up for you, having young parents, looking back at it now, did you appreciate that? Did you look at it any differently? You know, for me, I looked at my parents as being old when I was younger. And I don't know, maybe that's just me. But, you know, your mom being 21 years old, that's definitely a little bit younger than, you know, I guess the average for today's standards.
I don't think I appreciated it at the time because my folks were very, like, on the career path. And I didn't appreciate it until later when I was looking at old family videos. And I saw, oh, my God, I saw my poor young mom sitting on the floor of the, like, it's a Christmas video. We're like unwrapping presents, just a bunch of obnoxious young kids, my brother and I. And my mom's like barely staying awake because she worked nights at the hospital, you know? And I was just like, man, that's so rough.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, and that's the grind that your parents went through to be able to provide. Yeah, shout out to Mama Dukes, right? Like straight up. And so I always talk, I do talk about this a lot on the podcast, that growing up, your direct kind of image a lot of the times of your environment, you know? So if you grow up in a household of people grinding, your mom, you know, grinding to put food on the table, all of that shit, well, what are you going to turn out to be? If your parents, you know, are drug addicts and they do all, well, what are you going to be? So if you go back to it, you're back to your story, right? That's probably where it all starts.
Oh yeah, my parents were definitely had an incredible work ethic. Mm-hmm. I mean, my mom was working at the hospital, and then she also went back to school to get her graduate degree so that she could level up and be a nurse practitioner. She eventually surpassed my dad, I think, in salary. It took a long time. I mean, especially in the medical field, it's so fucked up, but they don't give women, you know, the same kind of respect as like the male doctors and like, so, but my dad always encouraged that. He always encouraged education. And I think, I mean, like, I just knew, and they always told us, they were like, you know, when you're 18, you're out the house, right? Like, you know, there's no like living here after 18. And like, they told me and my brother that, you know, and so we knew, we were like, we, you know, we're not getting a free ride. Like, they're like, you got to go to college, but we're not paying for it because we don't have the money. So figure it out. Like, you know, that they weren't that, it sounds super.
No, it doesn't.
It sounds hard. This is probably going to freak some people out, but, and I'll probably come back to this too. My brother had cancer.
Whoa.
And he moved back in during the time he had cancer, and my dad charged him rent. So there's like a good, there's an idea. Like my folks are.
I get it. Yes.
Like, you're living with us. I don't care if you have cancer, pay rent.
Wow. But once again, that's kind of a direct correlation of who you are. You know, that nonstop mentality. That is your folks instilling that into you. We'll definitely get back to the cancer thing because actually let's just kind of touch on it right now. What kind of cancer did your brother have?
Lymphoma.
Wow.
And he was 25. And maybe younger, actually. He might have been younger. We were just kids. I mean, I had moved to New York after college, and I was coming home on the bus. My brother, going back a little bit, since it's my story, I'm just gonna tell the one tell it. Growing up, my brother was always the athlete, and I was always like terrible at sports. Okay. And I always like admired him, wanted to be like him. I mean, he's tan and he's like fucking great with a ball. He can, he would crush the soccer game. He would crush a baseball game. He'd play hockey. We'd ride bikes. We lived at the bottom of this big hill, and we'd go up to the top of the hill and we'd ride these bikes down the hill. And one day we're like, we're gonna make it a bike gang. And if you want to get into the bike gang, you have to ride down the hill with your hands in the air. Yeah. Like, it's terribly dangerous. You're just like, any slight pebble could just send you crashing to the asphalt and cheese grater your entire body. Yeah. But you're just like, we're kids like, blah. And I was actually really scared to do it. I was not a fearless human like most people think I am. The persona that I have versus the reality. Yes. And I was just like, but I really want to be in this bike gang. So I did it. It took me a few tries. I finally did it. I was like, I'm in the bike gang. And then all the boys in there weren't any girls in the neighborhood. All the boys in the neighborhood were like, it's no girls allowed. So I got kicked out of the bike gang. No. And then we were like both on swim team in Maryland. We were living in Maryland at the time. Maryland, Michael Phelps. Like it's like a swimming mecca, and they divide the end of the year into two groups. They're like All-Stars, Summer Classic. Basically, the dumbasses who can't swim, like not dumb, but like the unfit. I'm being a bad example.
No, you're not.
Young
You're
kids
fine.
right now,
You're
but
fine. You're fine.
The kids that were slow, and that was me.
It's true.
So every year he'd go to All-Stars, I go to Summer Classic. So he was like the specimen of like fitness. And I was just like, well, I suck and it's fine. I'm good at the arts. So I went to art school, and then I went to New York to be an actor. And I'm coming home on the bus for like Thanksgiving one year. And my brother was like, he picks me up from the bus station and he goes, so Kym, I got something to tell you, but don't freak out. I got cancer. And I was just like, and I mean, he was, but I got the cancer lottery because it's like the best cancer to get.
Oh my God. Woo! Winner.
I know. Like, go my brother. Like, I'm so impressed with him that he had such a positive attitude in that moment, because I think I would have lost it or something. My brother was like invincible to me, Like, he was such an incredible person that could do anything. And I was just like, what do you mean? I was blown away by it. And so I knew he was starting chemo. He had a long road ahead of him. So I started coming home more often and sitting with him during chemotherapy. And, we were 90s kids. And like we had like, a bunch of alt rock music that we liked. So I would make mixtapes and
the good old days.
And we had, the headphones, we'd split them. I put one in his ear and he would be in the chair, and I knew that chemo was pretty really uncomfortable for him, like painful probably. And he would put his hood over his face and just like sit there and like try to like just bear it. My brother's so strong, and I would sit next to him, and like every once in a while I'd get a reaction. Like we just listen to the mixtapes, and he wouldn't talk. And every once in a while he'd be like, like nod his head or start playing air drums for like 2 seconds, and then he'd go back to being still. So I was like, cool, I get this. And it was just like, it was really hard to watch him go through it. And he eventually did radiation. He did everything. It took a while. He lost his hair. He was super fit, you know, like when I say my brother was like an athlete, he also looked the part, like tan, rippled muscles, Jeez. Italian stallion, you know, like just everything you would expect. And he turned into what he called fat powder.
Oh my gosh.
You know, like he was bald and white and fat. Like all his muscle just turned to like pudge because he was ripped, but then it just, you know, he wasn't skinny, so it just turned into. And like it was so hard to see because, oh man, he didn't want to eat anything, and then we'd be like, "Come on, you got to eat something." And then every once in a while he'd try to eat something. It was just like, it was so hard to watch. And then I was like, he eventually, okay, spoiler, he eventually kicked it. So.
Yes.
My brother is now, I think he's 7 years cancer free, which is amazing.
Amazing.
6 or 7 years cancer free. And he eventually got back to, he's a bodybuilder. He's into bodybuilding now. And he's
there
like,
we go.
He's back to being the Italian side. He's chiseled and tan. And I think watching that, my brother take that like super huge, like, I don't want to call it a fall from grace because it was involuntary, but like, you know, he went from this epitome of an athlete to like just a sludge on the ground, right? And as he was coming back, he was asking me like, what do you eat? Like, how do you? And I'm literally just working in a gym to pay the fucking bills because I want to be an actor, but I'm a horrible waitress. That's a whole nother story. I suck at waitressing. And so I'm working at this gym because I'm just like, God, let me pay the rent. And my brother's like, well, what do you do to stay fit? And I was like, this is when I finally started to realize, wait, I'm actually, you consider me fit? Like, I'm fit? I'm the fit one? And I was like, well, I got the genes. Okay, so maybe. All right. And then the wheels start turning. It's like, I really credit that whole, like, moment in time to really kind of him gifting that to me, giving me that ability to see myself as an athlete. And, you know, I was like, well, shit, if my brother can come back from being fat powder, I can pull myself together and start to be, you know, the athlete that everyone has the potential to be. Yes. But I just never gave myself that credit. Yeah. So that was like a big moment for me.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah. You know, having to witness that, and someone that is your hero, your rock, your freaking brother who you looked up to see.
I don't want him to know, but he was kind of my hero.
No, I mean, I can see the reaction on your face and the way you light up when you talk about him. It's huge. It's huge. And it's another part of your story that is that nonstop mentality, right? Mm-hmm. It's just that another check in that box that pushes you harder and harder. We're gonna dial it back, but I do want to say that it's amazing that your brother fought it like a fucking rock star. He beat it, and 6 to 7 years and not having it. So shout out to him.
He's a dad. Man. He's got 2 kids now.
Yes.
They're the cutest damn things you've ever seen. One of them is just like me. Sorry, John, you're fucked, but like, yeah.
I love that. All right. So we're gonna bring it back to your story. Okay. So at that point, when you found out that your brother had cancer, before that, had you ever in your life, were you very athletic your entire life?
I mean, no. It was horrible. Everything. Like, the only thing I did growing up was like, I remember when we moved to Columbia, Maryland at some point when I was older, a little bit older. And I had a tape recorder, and like the place where we lived was still under construction. There was just like rocks and gravel and like clay in the ground, like, and I would just go out to these like construction sites like in the neighborhood and just like sing into the tape recorder, you know, like I wasn't cool, I was nerdy, I was kind of dorky, and I wasn't good at sports at all.
No, not at all. But there definitely was something that flipped over.
Definitely. Because I'm crushing it now.
I love that. So at what point in your life did this all start to change? Was it when your brother said that? Because you were already working in the gym. But before that, what got you to even work in the gym?
In college, I just was, I think, stressed out. I didn't love the college. I went to University of Maryland. Because you're a great school, I guess, but you're like a jock school, and I was still very much like an arts kid. And I was like, I'm just here because I have a full ride scholarship is why I was there.
Wow.
And like I said, my parents were like, you have to go to college, but we're not gonna pay for it.
Yes.
And I landed myself a full ride scholarship as a theater major.
Wow.
And, but I was double majoring. I was trying to do a lot of things and definitely took on a lot. And so at some points I was just stressed and I was like, how am I going to study? I don't feel stressed. I feel like pent up. I don't sit, like, I think ADD is definitely a thing for me. I never was diagnosed, but like, I'm just like, I have this energy all the time. So I'd go to they had this really nice fitness facility and I'd like ride a bike or walk on a treadmill or something while I was studying so that I could, keep my focus. And then probably also a part of this, my mom used to teach step aerobics back in the day, like way back in the day. So I think there's just like, I knew what to do in a gym. Yeah. Like I was like, excuse me, I had to burp.
It's okay. Do your thing.
I knew vaguely what to do in a gym, but like I would go to them. And then when, I got out of college. I got into dance. I was really into dance. I had double majored in dance and French and theater.
My gosh.
I know, it's overachiever.
Yes.
And there was I was dating this guy who danced in this company called Rennie Harris Pure Movement. It was a hip hop company. And I got really into house music and house dancing. And I was auditioning for music videos and I was booking some and I was like doing the dancer thing. And then I moved to Philly and was doing that for like a summer or a year. I don't remember. It was short.
It's a big difference.
Whatever. Not when you're my age. But, and then I got a job waitressing because that's what you do when you're an artist. You waitress. And I got fired from that waitressing job.
Why?
And I don't think I ever got fired from a job before. I just sucked at it. I was not good at it. Like, I'm not a stoner, but I have always had like a stoner brain. Like my therapist says it's executive functioning and I suck at she's like, you suck at those aren't her words, but
I get it.
Those are my words. And I suck at executive functioning and I do a lot. I have a lot of systems now in place so that I can be like, the boss human that I am now. But then I didn't know. Like, no. It was like, I couldn't remember anything. I messed up all the orders, forget everything. I was just bad.
Yes.
Bad at it.
You got systems. Two things that I want to point out. What you just said, ADD and therapy, right? I am
Therapy's
huge. Great. Exactly, it really is. I'm a huge proponent for it. I mean, one, I'm ADD as fuck. Always have been. Always will be. Most people think that, and most people know that. But also therapy. I'm manic bipolar. Like I just that's who I am. I wear it like a fucking badge of honor.
That's awesome
and
that you say it too.
You have to. I mean, more people need to be talking about these things.
Yeah.
And it's really important for me, one, to talk about it, but when people come on and they speak about it, it means a lot because these different types of mental things that we all have, right? Some more, some less, needs to be spoken about because it's been pushed under the covers for so long. And more people like yourself, me, the people that I bring on, when they talk about it, it starts to shed light on it. And so shout out to you for even just talking about it casually. So respect. Thank you.
Also shout out to you for admitting manic bipolar. And like, there was a time in my life where I have to admit, like, if someone told me that, I'd be like, oh, I should steer clear from this person because they're going to give me a lot of drama. But like, you've created a life for yourself that works really well. You have like a great job. You have a wife who's beautiful and has a beautiful house. And like, you have this podcast. So like, you've obviously created systems. I think people are really scared of other people who suffer from like schizophrenia, manic bipolar, all these, conditions that if they don't know and they haven't experienced or they haven't related to them, or maybe they have, like, for instance, I had an ex-boyfriend who was bipolar and he dragged me through the mud. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience. Yeah. So from that reason, I'd also be like, well, shit, I'm never touching another human being, even as a friend who's bipolar. But now that I know that it's not that you want to steer clear of everyone who has a condition. It's that you want to give them a chance. Like, or steer clear of people who have a condition who haven't learned how to deal with it.
Exactly.
Maybe
it's huge.
Or like, help them learn if they're a family member, help them learn systems, how to deal with it. Absolutely. So that's like, I mean, there are systems that can be put into place for everything, OCD, all bipolar, manic,
Yep.
schizophrenia. There's systems, there's learned behaviors, habits.
All of that.
If all else fails, medication.
Yeah, and for me, I'm not a proponent of medication for me. I'm not saying for anyone else, right?
If all else,
if all else fails, but it is the systems, right? It is creating structure in your life, and sometimes those structures, the borders will break, right? But then it's just rebuilding it, and it's having a strong supporting team, right? My wife, huge, strong supporting team member in my life, and my cousin, the people around me that are always around me, because if I don't have that, then all my shit fails, because I can be the strongest person in my life, but if I don't have people helping to build me up through my weak times, then it's just kind of like a spiral, and it's a snowball that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think I talked about this on a podcast, a couple of days ago, but like a week ago, I got into a really dark hole, and I just, at this point, my wife and the people around me know, hey, just leave Brock alone. Let him work through it. When he comes out of his room, help build him up.
And some people listening to this could think like, well, he's lucky he has a beautiful wife at home to help him.
Sure.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
I want to just bring up the story of the woman who started Trouble Coffee in San Francisco.
Yeah.
She was, she had a lot of mental disorders. And what she did, I'm totally forgetting her name right now. Juliet, I think, is her first name. She's on a This American Life podcast, but her story, she was a mess, but she created habits where she would walk home the same way every single day. It's the same people would see her. So it's like, yeah, she didn't have a beautiful wife at home or husband. Like, she created habits. So it's not always like, I know some people could listen to this and be like, well, I don't have that. I don't have a supporting family. I understand life is hard, and we don't always have the same, we don't always get the same luck of the draw, but there are learned behaviors and habits that can be done to help, just for the people out there listening to this, just to think about other ways to manage your illness or condition.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. You know what? For me, it's not to brag or anything. It's like, no, this is what it is. I am fortunate enough to have these people in my life, but not everyone has that, right? But that does not mean to give up and to just let it fall by the wayside, because if there's a will, there's a way. It's so freaking true.
Right.
All right. So thank you very much for talking about that. And
I love it.
Let's bring it back to your story.
Sure.
So I heard you say something just a little bit ago, and it was that you got a scholarship, right, before you went to college. What the heck was that all about?
Theater scholarship.
Yes, a theater scholarship.
Well, I went to Baltimore School for the Arts, so shout out to that school, because that school is amazing.
Oh, you like that school, huh?
Yeah. Sorry, University of Maryland. Listen, I'm sure University of Maryland is a great school. My experience there was, it's like frat boys and football players, and it's just not the scene for me.
It's not you. I get it.
That's not me. But we lived in this neighborhood where the high school that was in my district had no windows. It was designed after a prison, and I thought, you know what? This is thinking back on this now, I'm just thinking of this now. Yeah. Give myself some credit. Yes. I took the initiative. I looked at that school and I was like, I'm not going there. Wow. My parents didn't encourage this at all. I just told my parents, I was like, I'm not going there. I'm going to find another school to go to. And I started applying to all these private high schools and magnet schools and literally anything I could freaking do to not go to that school. Yeah. And one of my friends was like, there's a school in Baltimore, which was 30 minutes away from where I lived. And she was like, it's an art school. You have to audition. She was like, but I'm going to audition. You want to come? And I was like, yes. And I auditioned, and you could audition in up to 2, I think. And I was like, let me give it a shot in anything I got. I could juggle. I'll tap dance. What do I got to do? Yes. So I auditioned in theater and I auditioned in music. And I played the oboe at the time.
The oboe? What the heck is that?
Exactly. It's just musicians would know what an oboe is. Classical musicians would know what that is. Rock musicians wouldn't. It's it's the dorky, bassoon, oboe, double reed. Yeah. You have to make this face. like to play it, like the weirdest face ever.
I love that.
You also have to learn how to whittle.
Oh.
You have to whittle your own reeds.
Are you serious?
Like you can't just buy one because it's like the sound the reed makes is so attuned to your embouchure and everything. So it's this whole nerd like chasm I fell into, but I wasn't fully in it. I was just playing the oboe because, like I said, my parents moved a lot, and by the time we got to this one school, they were like, all the instruments are taken, here's an oboe. And I was like, God damn it, And they were like, but if you learn how to play it, you'll get a scholarship, is what they said. And I was like, noted, right?
Check.
So I was like, I'm going to learn this oboe because God knows how I'm going to go to college.
Yes.
I'm going to figure this out. So I was always just very resourceful. Learned the oboe, auditioned in music and theater. I really, really wanted to do theater. And they took me in music.
Oh my God.
So, and the school is hardcore. You spend 4 hours a day in your major and then 4 hours a day doing academics. What? So the academic side might have been a little light.
Yes.
I think I made it to like geometry. I don't even know what algebra is. I have no idea.
I don't even know what geometry is.
Right. I mean, do you even use it? Unless your job calls for it.
You're an engineer, like whatever. Everything else. Yeah. Whatever. That's a whole nother topic.
But so they let me in for music, and I was like, I learned how to whittle. I learned all this. I learned, all these like symphony. I like was soloing. I was on the track to I did the Peabody Prep, which is Peabody Orchestra in Baltimore. Did all that, and the next year came around. They were like, I knew another girl who re-auditioned. You can re-audition if you want to change majors, but you have to start over. And I was like, I'm going to try again because I'm just persistent.
I can tell.
Yeah. So I got back into theater after that. So I did theater, and then I got a scholarship to University of Maryland Theater. So that's how I did that.
I love that. And at what age were you let me speak. How old were you when you were given the opportunity to play the oboe?
I was, how old are you in 7th grade?
Shit, that's how young you were.
Yeah, well,
I love that.
How old are you? Like
13, 14, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I wanted to play instruments. I've always loved music. And I had an upright bass at one point. When I was 10, I was playing the upright bass. Yes. Which I'm short, so that was a disaster.
It was bigger than you.
I couldn't even reach the thing. And then when we changed schools again, I couldn't. There was no upright bass for me to play, and it's just loaned out public school instruments. So.
Damn.
I was like, fine, I'll play this thing.
Yeah, but it helped you get to college.
Yeah.
It's huge. One thing that I keep on hearing you say is when I change schools again, I went to
so many schools.
I went to a lot of schools, but that's because I was kicked out of every single one.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. This is not my story. It's your story.
Someone's going to have to pry it out of you.
Yeah, people keep on asking me to do it. So I will eventually. But what was that like growing up? You would get comfortable in a school, and then you'd have to leave. Get comfortable in school, you'd have to leave.
There's a memoir by the actor. I'm totally spacing his name. I hate my Alzheimer brain sometimes.
Yeah.
Probably smoked too much weed as a high school kid. I smoked so much weed in high school. I went to an art school.
Yes, we all did. Well, I can't say we all did, but you and I both did.
Oh, you know what? But your friend said something really interesting, and I keep forgetting his name.
Tyler Turner.
He was like, I think in the future so much that I forget things in the past. And I was like, that's a great way to spin it.
Yes.
Because, let's be honest. I think he just probably has a shitty memory like me.
Yes.
But that is a great spin.
No, it's
I was like,
he
Tyler,
does a great.
What a great spin. I'm going to use that.
Shout out.
I'm such a future thinker that I forget the past.
Shout out to Tyler. No, it's true. Our brains definitely suck regardless, what you do or what you don't do. It's not like it's a computer where it remembers, everything. So I sometimes wish that I did, but then I'm actually happy that I did not remember everything. Okay. So, but, getting back, you changed schools. Was that hard?
Hang on. I'm going to be an asshole and look up the actor. Ooh. Really.
I wish I had a Jamie like Joe Rogan. Freaking Jamie would be looking it up right now.
Really.
Zach needs to do that.
Okay, hang on 1 second. Where are the actors? Why aren't they showing me the actors? They're showing me the writers.
No.
John Lithgow, thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right, sorry.
Okay.
That was going to drive me crazy. So John Lithgow wrote a memoir, and I wish I read more, and every once in a while I feel like I read a book and I'm always just like, damn. Yeah. So somebody handed me, I think my dad handed it to me, and I read it. But his whole story, he moved a ton, and he credits that to why he became an actor. And I was like, I relate so much because it's like the tap dance you do. You know the tap dance.
I do.
Like the whole act that you do when you go to a new school, you go to a new place, and you're like, time to make new friends. You're like, this is me.
Yeah, it's so
I'm
true.
gonna make new friends. And so I think that's how I'm like, mind you, my career. I know you're listening. You guys might be confused. I know I'm not an actor. You're like, but you didn't make it as an actor, right? But what I do is still in front of a camera. Like I'm very much a public-facing person, and I have to make people like me to a point. So. Yeah, I credit that to my parents moving a lot,
But going through it, was it hard?
I mean, I'm sure it was. It doesn't keep me up at night. I definitely remember it, and I always mention it when I talk about my life story. So I'm sure at some point it was like pretty hard.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's just a part of who I am now.
Of course. All those little bits and pieces build up the person that you are today, right? All right, cool. All right, so let's jump a little bit forward, right? So you you get into the college, you go, for music. She gets into the college.
She graduates the college.
Yes. Going through school, going through college, right? Were you working out? Were you
working?
Yeah. Were you, riding bikes? Were you doing any of that?
No, I like rode a bike around campus just because it's like a mode of transportation. No, I still wasn't athletic. No.
But isn't that crazy?
Right? I danced. Okay, so I danced. I minored in dance.
Okay.
And so dance was my athletic outlet. And I always had more of a gymnast type body than I did a dancer body.
Okay.
And just maybe that's genetics or whatever. So kind of square and short.
Genetics definitely play a huge role into your body, right?
Yeah.
Like my wife and, her brother and all of them, they're like all, fit and they all live to their 90s and 100s. And, it's like my family, they all freaking died when they're like 60 years old and they all have autoimmune disorders and it's it is what it is, right? It's the card that you were dealt.
I
right?
got cancer in mine,
right?
so
yeah. Check. I don't mean to be laughing about that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, bro. But he made it, so that's most important, right? Okay, so you go through college and all that shit.
My grandma didn't. So, no. Okay, sorry.
Wait, seriously?
No, I mean, one of them died of cancer. The other one died of Parkinson's. Brutal one to watch. So anyway, going back.
Okay, yeah. Go, let's.
R.I.P. grandmas. They're great.
Yes. All right, so going through college, all that stuff. What happened after you were getting done with school?
I went straight to New York.
New York. What was your plan?
To New York, like immediately. So I had my SAG card already. Because of School for the Arts, anytime they needed local talent, like young talent for a TV show or something, they'd hit up the School for the Arts because they knew that like they did shit right there. So the kids were usually very talented. Most of the kids out of that school, a lot of them went into like a professional career very soon after. Like most kids didn't even go to college. They would just go straight into like professional. So I was on Homicide: Life in the Streets, and then I was on The Wire. And so I had my SAG card from that. And then so I moved to New York feeling like I might have been hot shit at that point.
I'm sure you did.
That's what I thought. But it did not play out in my favor, I think. And I blamed a little bit on, I always wanted my parents to be more of a stage parents. They weren't. They were like career energy, like go get your degree. And I think had I left high school and gone to New York, I might have had a slightly different I would have had a hugely different experience. Just because I would have been 17, 18, and the pool of actors you have to choose from, professional actors at the age of 17, is probably smaller than the pool of actors you have to choose from at 22, right?
Absolutely.
So I get there at 22 and there's already all these kids that caught up to me. They went to Yale, they went to NYU. And so at that point my edge was gone. And I mean, I can't blame it all on that. I wasn't 100% the most attractive human being. I was not ugly, but I wasn't gorgeous, and I wasn't tall. And I was like, I think I was very in between as far as casting wise. This one, I had an agent. she put me in the ethnically ambiguous file.
What? Why?
This is also like in the 90s or 2000, early 2000s.
Early
so it was
aughts.
like very, like still not super PC. And I had dark hair and it was curly. And I looked kind of Puerto Rican, I guess.
Okay.
And so she sent me on a lot of Puerto Rican roles, like be the cop, be the tough girl, be this, you know. But there was always someone tougher and more Puerto Rican in my head than me.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not Puerto Rican, so there's that. It just wasn't the, you know, what it is now. And so I wasn't very successful. I had a few roles. I had a few things here. I did like a Law and Order. I did like a thing here. And then I remember, I like to say I had the Dave Chappelle moment before Dave Chappelle. Like
Okay.
I had a Dave Chappelle moment. I was at an audition, and well, I don't know if this is the moment Dave Chappelle is. I just know the outcome was a Dave Chappelle moment.
Okay.
But the moment that spawned it was I was at a callback for like, I think it was a Wells Fargo commercial, and I'm there and I'm standing there in the room and I was like, cool, it's my callback. It's a national commercial. This is like bank. This is money. I'm so stoked. And I'm standing there and I read my part, and then and then there's a pause in the room and they start talking amongst themselves in front of me. And they're like, you know what? She's a little too pretty for the young mom role, but she's like not pretty enough for like the young couple role. So we don't really know, like, I'm not really sure where she fits. And like, had I been a more seasoned actor, maybe at that moment in time, I would have thought, oh, cool, they think I'm a good actor. Like they want to use me, but my look isn't right.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I was still sensitive and younger. Yeah. And I literally was like, table flip. I'm out. I put my shit in storage. I left the country and I went to South Africa and I volunteered at an orphanage. And I was just like, this is my life now.
No
That's why
way.
I said Dave Chappelle moment. Yeah, I was
what
just like,
the
forget
fuck?
it. Like, forget it. Like, why? Like, you're going to talk about me in front of me like I'm a horse, or like, you know, just like, really? Like,
I don't get that. Like, I just don't get that. I don't get that.
I had done so many auditions at that point, and I just like was so over it.
It had to be so defeating for sure.
Yeah. And you're just always trying to, I mean, of course I was probably going about it the wrong way. I'm sure successful actors would say, just be yourself. But I was always trying to like figure out, what do they want me to be? What do they want me to be? And then obviously my success came after I decided to just be myself. So,
Absolutely.
There's the moral of the story.
You know what? That is the moral of the story, right? Be yourself. Right. That is one of the reasons I started the podcast.
Right.
Was to be myself, because I've lived my whole life as two people that, you know, that perceive me on the outside and the person on the inside. Right. And so when we can kind of let go and become who we truly are, good things come, hopefully, right? But that whole thing, flip the table, right, and then go to South Africa. What was the time span from flip the table, South Africa?
It was pretty fast, but I was with a group of friends at the time. I was in this acting class. I think a lot of actors, you know, like they just go to class a lot when they're, you know, trying to do something with their life.
Of course.
And I had a good group in this class. Actually, I'm still friends with a lot of them. And I started, I know at one point, I was like, class is really expensive. I'm going to take a month off. So I took a month off, but I also told my friends, hey, I'm going to host writing at my house, so we can meet on Mondays. The class was on Wednesdays. So I was like, we can meet on Mondays and work on writing our own material. And then eventually I was like, man, this material is getting really good. I was like, let's do a showcase. And then I approached the acting school and was like, hey, can we use your theater? And they were like, yeah. And so we did a week of shows, and like it was all sold out. It was actually really, like, for a long time, that was one of my greatest achievements in life, was like I produced a play in off Broadway in New York, and it was like really successful. And then I left. I went to South Africa. So that was all going on. And then one of the people in that group of friends, not in the acting class, but he was like tertiary. He was in the group of friends. He was a model. We had like a little fling, and he was really cute, and he was South African. And terrible story. His like grandmother was like brutally murdered in her home, and then so he like he goes home, like he forfeits his visa and goes home, and he's like, but you should come visit me. So like all this stuff is happening concurrently, and I was like, fine, I'm going to South Africa, bye.
Yes.
And so that
bye. Wow.
You know? And I showed up in South Africa, and I was like, hey, cute boy, and he was like, I'm kind of over it, and I was like, oh, that hurts. And then I got like, I met somebody else who was like cuter, and I was like, life is better. It's fine.
Yes.
And I ended up staying longer than I expected. So everything was fine. Everything worked out. It was just an interesting.
That is definitely fucking crazy.
Time in life.
That is definitely crazy.
It's what you do in your 20s, right?
Of course, absolutely.
You figure it out.
You have to figure it out. Those are the times to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You're still learning while you're going. How long were you in South Africa for?
I think 6 months total.
Okay. So then you're out there for 6 months. When you came back, did you have any plans?
No, my stuff was still in storage. My friend had just gotten an artist residency it's on Franklin Street. It's like the School of the Arts or something very nondescript like that. And he invited me to see his studio. I think I landed and went to his studio. And the studio had a shower. And I think I slept in his art studio for like a week because I didn't have a house. I didn't have any place to live. So I was like sleeping in this art studio. And I remembered when I saw his because he was a mess when I left. He was like borderline alcoholic. And then when I got there and I saw this like great fortune that had befallen him, and he's very talented, and I was just like, I like was moved to tears. I was like, this is amazing. So inspiration and nowhere to live and living in an art studio, and like I don't remember what happened after that, honestly. It's like a blur. I guess I got my life together, got a new apartment. I started riding. I always rode a bike around New York City, but I didn't ride it as frequently. And then I had met somebody, this guy Austin Horse. He's like my brother now. He's amazing. He's been in my life for a really long time. And he was like, I was riding this shitty bike around and it got stolen. He was like, let me get you another bike.
No way.
And then I start riding this other bike and it was so much lighter. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I'm flying. I'm going so fast. And somebody was like, I don't remember who, someone was like, you're kind of fast. Like you should do a race. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. Like, you have no idea. I'm terrible at sports. And they were like, no. Like, come to this. Like, it's for charity. They do this thing every year called Cranksgiving.
Okay.
And it's an alley cat race, which is an illegal street race, if you remember. Quiz. And that's what we were talking about earlier.
Quiz.
Illegal street race with checkpoints. So it's like a messenger style race. So you route yourself. You're riding in live traffic, and it'll be like, the checkpoints are like, there's someone waiting at those checkpoints to like give you an item or to give you a stamp or something. So it'd be like Union Square, Columbus Circle, Avenue A and 3rd or something.
Yes.
And then you have to go to the finish line or something. So the first person to complete that little maze through the city, usually it's like everyone puts in like $5 or $10 and then winner takes all is usually how those races go.
How many people?
Whoever shows up.
Like 100 people, 20 people?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they're huge. Sometimes, like, if it's, like, a lesser-known one, like, someone just decided. Sometimes someone will be, like, on a Friday, if it's a messenger thing, like, on the radio back in the day, they'd be like, I'm going to throw a race, so,
I love that.
Some of them are, like, real institutions. Like, they've been going on, like, Monster Truck's been going on for, like, 22 years now. Anyway, Cranksgiving is a long-running one. It's a little different because it's a charity race. And it's good. Oh, it's so fun because it happens around in November, and what you're doing, your checkpoints, instead of being people giving you a stamp, it's supermarkets all around the city, and you have to buy an item and put it in your bag and carry it with you to the next, and you have to keep the receipt to prove that you went to that store. So that's how you prove you were there. And at the end, it's like a whole shopping list. At the end, you end at a food bank and you donate all the food to the food bank.
Shut up.
Yeah, it's super fun. And like literally every city should hold one. LA does. I know that New York does. A lot of cities like Chicago, even Brooklyn started doing like their own separate one because it was so popular. And so it's like a great way to get people, and like people just show up who don't, like, that aren't bike racers. It's not like you don't have to be a bike messenger. You don't have to be a bike racer. You could literally do it on a trike. You could do it on a skateboard. You could do a running race like this. And it's so fun because you remember, like, I don't remember supermarket sweep, but when you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, you just like run like a crazy person through the supermarket.
Yes.
And you run and you're like, there's all these people with like, it's so hilarious because the supermarket workers are like, what? Like, it's like 10 people running at the same time with like helmets, and they're like, where's the cranberry sauce? And they're just like dashing with the cranberry sauce, like fighting their way through the line. It's like,
I love that.
It's really funny. And they'll usually do like prizes for, first place, but Also, they do prize for like most generous. So people that like carry, I remember one time one guy got like a cargo bike and he bought like 20 turkeys, frozen turkeys or something. So like, you know, most generous.
That's so freaking cool.
Best costume. People dress up like turkeys. People dress up like Native Americans. Like it's just like it's a crazy free for all. It's so fun. Yeah. So that was my first experience in a bike race, so obviously I was hooked.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like an amazing way, one, to have a great time, but two, to also give back, right? It hits so many levels, and it does not matter your expertise, your level, any of that, but there was definitely something in there that lit the fire up your ass,
Hell
right?
Yeah.
So
because I won it.
Yeah.
So I was
Shut the fuck up! First time.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not athletic, I can't ride a bike.
Okay, but here's the thing. I thought I was hot shit, but like now that knowing what I know about Cranksgiving, like it's not a competitive race. So
guys,
I was kind of an asshole, but like
you're the dick that's just like pushing everyone out of the way.
There's always somebody. Yeah. So there's always someone that wins it, and I was the one that went here because I was just like, and this is what I discovered about myself since is like I was like, oh, I'm not competitive, like I don't do sports. No, I'm competitive. It's fuck. And the reason why I didn't do sports is because I wasn't good at them. Yeah. So if I wasn't good at it, I didn't want to do it because I wanted to be the best.
Yeah, of course. I get that. I was
like, stay in my lane. I'm good at art.
Of course. Know, like... No. It's cool. It's cool. It's so crazy to think that something like that is what changed the whole course of your entire life.
Yeah.
That moment in time literally changed the whole course of your life.
Definitely like the following 15 years.
Yeah. Well,
who knows what's coming after?
Yeah, absolutely. No, but it's so true. It's like, what would have happened if you would have stayed this way, right? But you just were like, nope, fuck that. I'm going this way. So after that race, what was next? Because you were still in New York?
Hang on one second. Pouring water.
Yeah. No. Do your thing.
I was still in New York. Yes, I was still in New York. That's kind of where like the alley cat culture thrives. Sorry.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah.
Get that out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
There we go.
The alley cat culture thrives in New York for sure because New York is just like one of the best cities to have illegal street races.
I love that.
And so, I mean, there's this thing called the green wave. I'm sure anyone who pays attention to anything cycling related in New York City, although that's probably very niche. Okay. But there's this thing called the green wave, and it's like when you catch the green wave, it's the lights. All the lights turn green, and if you go at a certain pace, like in San Francisco, Valencia Street's 13 miles per hour, boring. In New York, it's like if you can rail it at like 20 miles per hour down First Avenue, you will catch that green wave, and you were just like, ah! You know, it's like it's so fun.
Yeah.
And you get such a rush, this adrenaline rush, you know. And so I was doing alley cat racing, and then my friend was like, oh, our messenger company needs somebody for the winter. And I'm so naive, but I was like, sure, I'll do it because I thought messengering was cool.
Yeah.
Fuck the winter in New York City. I'm dropping so many F-bombs. I promise you guys I'm professional. If there are children listening...
Well, yeah.
Fudge.
Yeah. I'm sure if they're listening to this podcast,
they're sleeping by now.
Yeah.
They're like, put on Frozen. Where's Elsa? I'm done.
You're so dumb. No, but I drop F-bombs all the time. So
if you have sensitive ears, I apologize. I grew up in New York. Now you know why. This is how we say, how are you?
Yes, and she apologizes, and I just don't.
Yeah.
So I don't give a fuck.
You know, secret goal of mine.
Yes.
Was to not say I'm sorry for this entire podcast.
Did you say it?
Well,
you just did. You just apologized.
I apologize. So
take that sorry back.
I'm not fucking sorry.
No, don't be sorry for anything unless you do something wrong. It's just language, right? You're passionate.
You're right.
It's passion, right?
That was a secret goal of mine. I was like, I'm not going to say sorry. Because women say sorry too much, and it's just a bad habit. It comes out of our mouths, and... fuck that shit.
Yeah, fuck that. No. There were a couple people, Tyler, one of them, when they started listening to my podcast, like, dude, this is really good, but you got to stop saying fuck all the time. And at first I was like, yeah, well, maybe you're right. And then I started thinking, I tried to stop it, you know? But I felt like I was like restricting myself. And then I don't know. It just wasn't me because on my day-to-day life, I say fuck all the time. And it's just who I am. I'm not a bad person, right?
Yeah.
I just like that word a lot. And I have a decent vocabulary. but the word fuck just has a nice ring to it. So I say it, and I just don't give a fuck anymore.
I think when I'm really like hanging out with another person, another adult.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Another adult having adult conversation, then it comes out a lot. I've gotten a lot better because I have young nephews. Yeah. And so like I can now turn it on and off. I think there was a point in my life when I couldn't. And I think that it's an important skill to be able to turn off when necessary, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. No. That is a great point, right? For me, this point is not turning it off, right? The tagline for this podcast is not your grandma's podcast, right? Yeah. So, get the point. Right?
I'm not turning it off tonight.
No,
okay,
don't
there you go.
let it roll, and we're good. Okay, so Messenger. Wait, hold on.
Oh, yeah, so the winter.
Yeah.
So
what does that
like? Count when you're a professional bike messenger, not like a seasonal, like... Do you remember, what was it, MTV's Real World?
Of course.
The first season.
Freaking kidding me?
Season 1.
Yeah.
Puck.
Yes, Puck. Yeah. What the puck, man?
By the way, fair weather messenger, not a professional. Okay? I think he worked a summer and called himself a bike messenger. Yes. We're just going to be like, all right, it's your summer job, you know?
Puck's like 60 now.
Yeah, I know. Shout out to Puck. You were influential to us, but...
Yeah, seriously, straight up.
Yeah, I got a job as a messenger in the dead of winter in New York City. Who does that, right?
I have no idea.
I don't know. And then I worked, I think, 5 or 6 winters. I lost count at this point, but I remember being like, I'm good. Like, you learn to... And it was crazy. I learned so much during that time. I had a friend that I would text with, Tone, and when I moved to Brooklyn, because I used to live in Lower East Side, and when I moved to Brooklyn, I was like, it was winter, and the bridge would be ice sometimes, and I was like, we're not getting over the bridge today. Like, I guess we got to call into work, and Tone would be like, $5 as we get over the bridge, and I'm like, oh. And he's like, I'll see you there in 10 minutes, and I'm like, so I get to the bridge, and I'm like, man, our skinny smooth tires actually made it over the bridge, which I was shocked because, like, you know, people that race bikes and do cyclocross, like, they know all this stuff, but like I didn't know when I was learning. You know, fixies, man. Fixed gear bikes, they can do a lot.
Those bikes are freaking crazy.
That's all I ever knew. I only knew a fixed gear bike my whole life until like I don't know, my 30s, and then California and hills.
I was like 3-piece cranks all the way, and never a fixie by any means of ever. Even when I get on one now, it's still uncomfortable to me. I mean, I can ride it, but it just I don't like it. But shout out to
coast.
Oh, fuck that.
Never coast.
Oh, fuck.
It's a good theme for life.
For people just real quick that are listening, they're like, what the hell is fixed gear, right? Why don't you explain it to them?
It's like a direct drive. Your cog is fixed to the wheels, so the bike only goes as fast or as slow as your legs move, and there's only one gear, so you don't have multiple gears, and you can pedal backwards. If you pedal backwards, you don't stop. That's a coaster brake. Yeah. If you pedal backwards, you actually go backwards. So yeah, it's like if you get a lot of momentum, it's very hard to control. It's kind of like a bucking horse.
Yes.
But your legs get really strong if you can manage to learn and tame that horse.
Tame that beast, my gosh. And so that's what you rode all over New York.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Monster Truck is like the legendary alley cat race that's brakeless. And full of toxic masculinity and all that stuff, you know, just like racing brakeless through the city and just like, so get out of my way, we're so cool. But, you know, it's like, it's one of the mainstays of alley cat culture, and it was one of the races I had never done because for multiple reasons. It takes place in February. So, like, I would like get off work and be like, why would I race in the snow on a Saturday?
Yes.
Screw that. So a long time I was just like not interested. And then after a while I was like not interested in doing it brakeless. I was just like, And then I moved to LA and was like, why would I go for February? Finally, I was just like, you know what? I've never won Monster Truck. I've never raced Monster Truck. I'm going to go to Monster Truck, win it. And then that's going to be my mic drop. I'm going to retire from Alley Cats. Mission accomplished.
You did it.
Yeah.
You won.
Yeah.
Damn. That's gangster as fuck.
It is. I told you.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I told you.
I just have to say, if I had to ride bikes around New York City, I'd get an electric bike, and yeah, that's about that. So
e-bikes are cool.
They are. I had one for a long time, and
after I ruptured my ACL, that e-bike was like the jam for me when I was recovering.
Fucking dope.
So.
Okay, We're gonna get to the ACL story. That is for sure.
It's not a great story.
Well,
just,
yeah, my brother just fucked his up really bad.
Oh,
But okay, all right. So after winning that race, what came next for you?
I mean, I was already living in LA.
So that you were already in LA.
Later. That was the end of my career.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
so then we're going to bring it back to your story then.
Fine.
Okay. So at what point were you like, all right, fuck it, I'm getting out of here?
Out of New York?
Yeah.
Terrible relationship ended in complete fireworks, blow everything up. Okay, so I had been working for Soulcycle since 2006, and at this point we're fast forward to 2014.
Okay.
And I had helped Soulcycle open all their studios at this point that were in existence. So I flew out to LA when we opened WeHo. I flew out to LA when we opened Santa Monica. I flew out to LA when we opened, what was the next one? Malibu or Culver? I can't remember. Beverly Hills. I forget the order. I taught in Miami. I did South by Southwest pop-up in Austin, Texas. I did Aspen pop-up in Aspen. Like, it was just, I was doing all I was like, I'm your traveling girl, because I was just like young and hungry, loved to travel. And finally I kept telling them, I think I want to go teach in LA. I don't think I want to stay in New York because the weather's just amazing.
Yes.
And I didn't have any friends or family here, but that's never stopped me. I mean, my parents, like I said, we moved everywhere, so you just do your tap dance, make some friends. And my relationship blew up horribly. I had been this is where the Nonstop nomiker. Am I saying that?
I think you're saying it right. I think you're saying it right.
You know when you know a word and then you say it, or you like write it out and you're like, that doesn't look right. Anyway,
whatever.
Became real. Like I was teaching spin classes and then bike messengering. I started my own messengering company with a group of people. It was a cooperative. And then I was teaching at Soulcycle. And then I was in a band. And I would go to band practice. And then we'd play shows. And then I'd sleep like 2 hours. And I'd get up and I'd do it all over again. And this was like day after day after day. It was my life.
ADD as fuck.
Oh, yeah. But I thrived in it.
Of course.
It was great
Absolutely.
for me.
I get it.
You know? And our band, like my band... was like we had the same booking agent as my boyfriend's band, and then we'd play with live drummers sometimes because we were an EDM band. We'd play with live drummers sometimes, and he is a drummer, so he would like play sometimes with us. It was just so twisted. Like half the songs were about our fucked up relationship, and he'd like be playing drums behind while I'm like screaming about this thing. It was like, so typical. So it blows up in a blaze of glory, and I'm just like, it's time. I'm going, and I go to LA. And we find out right around that time, my friend and I, that we got onto the Amazing Race.
Holy shit.
And so it was this whole like time to just like, let's just try this.
Yeah.
And that's because my brother's a little touchy OCD, and he was obsessed with Survivor, and he thought he had cracked the code and he could win it.
Okay.
So he kept applying for Survivor, like year after year after year after year. He gets cancer, survives cancer, and he's like, now I'm really going to get on the show because I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a shoo-in.
Yes.
It doesn't fucking work. He doesn't get
so crazy.
Here's another crazy thing. Even Jeff Probst, the host of Survivor, is in a Soulcycle class with me. I was like, I talked to him and I was like, my brother's obsessed with the show. You'd love to, like, he's been trying to get on it for years. Still doesn't get on it. Jeff's like, what are you doing later? We meet up. I go on a date with Jeff Probst. Still doesn't get on Survivor.
What the fuck?
Shout out to Jeff Probst. He was a total gentleman. We had a great night. We didn't, nothing. Like, it was just like, we actually just shared stories of like traveling the world. Then like I sent him a mixtape. It was hilarious. It was like a great time. Oh, and then later I was stranded in Cuba and I was sending an email to my friends. He was on that list. And I was like, LOL, I'm stranded in Cuba. And he was like, I know people, right? So Jeff Probst, also shout out thanks for getting me out of Cuba. It's not important.
Okay.
We've already fast forwarded.
I'm going to bring it back to another question, but we can fast forward through that one.
So one of the same casting agent that does Survivor does Lynn Spillman. She also does The Amazing Race. Yeah. So we get a phone call. I get a phone call from my brother. My brother goes, Kym, you're my ticket. And they were like, they're doing Blood and Water, which is like the sibling rivalry thing. And they're like, they saw you in one of the videos because I helped him with one of them. And who knew this? They keep all of the audition videos because they're like, oh, we like this person, but like they don't fit for this cast. So we're going to put them over here in this pile. As in like promising person, but doesn't fit.
Yes.
So they keep them all. And my brother was in that pile. So go, John, you made it that far. But like, you know, they were like, oh, and he's got a sister, noted. And so they called him up. He hadn't even applied that year, I think. And he was blown away. He was like, you're my ticket to Survivor. And so I reapply the whole thing all over again. And then they call me. I'm coming out of band practice. And they call me and they're like, hey, we think you'd be great for The Amazing Race. And I was like, awesome. I think my brother would be stoked on that. They were like, oh,
No.
About that. We really want you to be part of an all-female team. Do you have a friend? And I just stopped dead in my tracks. And this just brought me back to that table flip moment.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is my brother's fucking dream. Yeah. Like, and he's everything to me. And I was like, did you guys call him yet? And they were like, no. And I was like, I got to call you back. And I hung up on Lynn Spillman. I was like, just hung up. God. I was like, nah, I didn't do all this for myself. Yeah. I did this for him. Like, Respect. This isn't cool.
Respect.
So I'm standing in the cold outside of in Harlem at the metro station. I call my brother and I'm like, John, have you talked to anybody? And he's like, no. And he was like, I was just like, why do I have to be the one to tell him? So I told him, and he doesn't say anything. He just goes, you have to do it.
Yeah.
That's all he said.
That's a good brother.
And I was like, man, but this is your dream. Like, I don't like, I felt so bad, right?
I get it.
And he just said it again. He goes, you have to do it. I was like, oh, fine. Okay, it's like twist my arm. I'll go on over, you know, like Amazing Race. Like took one for the team.
Yes, I know, but.
So,
fuck.
So we go on the Amazing Race and we do a lap of the globe. My friend Allie and I, we do the lap of the globe in 1 month.
What was that?
Starting
like?
In New York, all the way around the world, back in New York, and like it was wild. We went New York to the Virgin Islands to London to like somewhere outside of in like the English countryside to Scotland to the Shetland Islands to Malta, and then Malta to Morocco to the Atlas Mountains outside of Morocco. It's still in Morocco, and then Morocco to, I think from Morocco we jumped all the way to Singapore. In Singapore, I'm pretty sure I'm not forgetting. Oh, we also went to Copenhagen. Copenhagen was in there, and then Singapore. We were crushing it. We were like doing first place finishes, second place finishes, doing a really good job. And then I got cocky, like I'm going to say this, like we got this, you know, fast forward challenge offered to us. We didn't need to take it, but I was like, we've been crushing it. Like fast forward just means you go straight to the finish line, but you have to do a challenge before that, but you don't know what it is. And I was like, we did our research. My roommate at the time, Allie, and we had done our research. We moved to LA. We didn't know anything about LA. We threw literally our smartphones, like, we were like, no more GPS because you don't have any smartphones on this show. So we're like, from now on we use maps. And we like got around LA for like 6 months with like maps. We were like so ready for this show. And I was like, you know what? It's always an eating challenge. Like, I'll eat anything for this. Yeah. Like, I mean, I was vegetarian, but I was like, screw it. Like, whatever. Make me eat goat balls. It's fine. And we get there and you surfing.
No. What kind?
High pressure wave, like man-made wave, like, you know, like a water park or something on this like board that's like the size of a freaking skateboard. And we had to stay up on the wave for 2 minutes simultaneously. 2 of us simultaneously stay on that wave. And we were like, like, what? So, but I mean, we didn't have that mentality. We were the only ones there. So, and you just get to keep trying indefinitely. So we were like, all right, let's just get at it. Like falling down, like fantastical, just spilling, just eating shit out over and over and over again. And like, of course we're on TV. So we're like wearing makeup and like mascara, just blunt, like dramatic mascara found on our face. And like, blah, we're screwing it up. And it's just like, you know, wedgies and bikini mishaps and all the things happening. But we're like, we're getting closer. And then the next team shows up and we have to share now. Because, like, now you take turns. Like, first team to get it, that's it. There is no second team to get it. If another team gets it, you're going back. And who shows up? Bethany Hamilton. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Shark accident,
I do.
professional surfer.
Of course.
great. And like people watching it that loved us were like, it was rigged. And it's like, it's not rigged. It's just the way it happened. And
That
it was honestly
fucking crazy.
It was a poor choice for us because like we were in the front and we could have just continued and made it probably first or second in that leg. But Bethany was in she was in last place. So she had everything to lose. So of course she was going to take the challenge. Yeah. So like logically it didn't make sense for us to do it. Yeah. And I just got cocky. And so like lesson learned, we got eliminated. No $1 million for us. But we did manage to win like money along the way, and we won a car, each of us. Yeah. And I gave that car to my brother.
Shout
out. John started his like young family, his first kid. He had a car. Like good so
for
everything,
you.
It's not
it
happy
worked
ending.
out. It was
it's
an amazing experience.
Humility. I learned a big lesson. You know, my old roommate still hates me. It's fine. We're good. Sorry, Allie.
That moment when you said Bethany came, I was just like, oh, you're fucked, dude.
Like, right?
Yeah,
right? It's like so crazy.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye. How long did it take for her to?
2 tries. 2. Because her husband, she got it, but her husband was eating shit. So, but she just like whispered into his ear, and then they got up the second time. It was like, boom, done. And I was like, I don't know what she said, but it was like the magic words.
Yeah. Damn.
Whatever, it's life. It was a game show.
At that moment, though, it must have sucked.
It's fine. I was bummed, but like I think Allie took it way harder. She was pretty bummed. Like it was rough.
Yeah. Has she gotten over it?
I mean, I think so.
Oh, I think so.
We're not like BFFs. But like, I think she forgiven me.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean forgiven you? Like, you didn't have to. Like,
I mean,
both
I know
you guys
she
to say yes.
She could have stood. I was very alpha in our relationship at the time. She has now blossomed into this. I mean, Allie, don't take that as a condescending thing. She was like 8 years younger than me. So I mean, she has really come into her own now. But I think at that time she was still finding herself. And now she's like doing Iron Mans, and like she's crushing it at life, and she's doing all these things. So like, but at the time, you know, we had moved to LA at the same time, and she had gone from working at Lululemon to like being on The Amazing Race. So it was like, you know, she didn't have time to like do a lot of other things to like learn and fail and fall on her face. So like, she didn't stand up to me, and when I said something, she kind of let me run it, and so I was kind of rampant at that time. So.
Holy shit.
I've learned a lot more about listening and learning since then.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. You know what? Take every experience as it comes, and if you can learn from it, that's the most important thing, right? And I want to ask you questions after that, but I do want to dial it back real quick. You were talking about Soulcycle, right? How the heck did that all come about?
I mean, I was bike messengering, and like I said, I was working in a gym. I had like, you know, my friends were like the old In Living Color joke, you're Jamaican, you know, like 20 jobs. So I had 20 jobs, and then one day the spin instructor didn't show up, and I was like, I can do this. I ride a bike, and I like jumped in and was like, I can teach spin. And like, I'm sure it was an awful class, but like New York Sports Club didn't care, and they were like, come audition. So I did, and they're like, do you have a certification? I was like, yeah, totally like lying through my teeth. You know, like make like fake it so you make it.
Yes.
So I did like, you know, 2 minutes of research on the internet and was like, heart rate zones, got it. Okay. You know, and then they let me teach, and I had wait lists. Like I was crushing it. Like, you know, I always had an ear for music, and like should have been a DJ, whatever. Like I had wait lists in all these studios, and Julie Rice and Elizabeth Cutler were savvy businesswomen. Although this was their first business, they didn't know what they were doing, but they did it right. Shout out to you guys. You crushed it.
Huge.
And Julie was coming from LA talent management. So she was just like scouting. I think she was probably one of the first people to ever apply that to fitness. And that's kind of how Soulcycle like birthed Superstars Boutique Fitness. Like Soulcycle was really at the forefront of that. And that's because in large part, Julie Rice treated it like I'm casting. Yeah. You know, she's like, she had the soulful one, you know, the grounded, like Ruth Zuckerman, very grounded, very like Mama Earth, like I'm teaching a class. And then she had like sort of the cocky badass, like hot Lori Cole. And then she had the like fiery lesbian Spitfire, like just like like, I will inspire you and turn your world upside down and make you think you also want to have an affair with me.
Yes.
Stacey Griffith. And then she was just like, what else am I missing? You know, and then she's like, I need younger rebellion. That's what I need. And she like finds it. She's like, you know, this girl was working for her, Heather, and Heather knew me through the Bike Messenger once. She was like, you know, my friend's a Bike Messenger. She teaches spin. And she was like, interesting. Tell me more, you know?
Oh
and then they were like bugging me to come. And I was like, Upper West Side, that's like really far. I live in Brooklyn. That's like 14 miles. Like, why are you going to make me do that? And I was like, basically, no. And they kept asking me to come. Finally, I came and they were like, this is what we'll pay you. And I was like, okay.
You're like, yes.
You know, because Julie Rice was very much like, what is it going to take? And she's like, money talks. Here you go. Like, and she was like, I need like a rebellious young thing in here. And I had like a half-shaved head and tattoos. And like, so like, this is what she needed to like kind of complete that little tableau. And
so smart.
Yeah. And so she was very smart. And that's how she got me in there. And that was, I think it's still on my bio at Soulcycle for a while. There was like, you know, it was like Ruth brings her nurturing soul. And it was like Lori brings her sassy soul. And they would always start it with that sentence. And it was Kym brings her rebel soul.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
It's a badass bitch.
Table flip. This is how I end here.
So. Damn. So that, do you think for you at that moment, it started to kind of then also reshape, you know, who you were? Because where you're at now, right, you go through that, then you go the Amazing Race, and obviously probably steps in between. But the Soulcycle job, was that kind of like a huge springboard for you?
I wasn't aware of it. I don't think I was. I should have been more aware of what was happening as it was happening. I've always been kind of aloof about celebrities, and I've always been kind of just do my own thing. Like I've been more attracted to like subcultures, bike messengers, bands, clubs, DJs, and so. You know, Soulcycle in the beginning was a very much like Upper West Side, Upper East Side clientele. And I was just like, I have nothing in common with these people. Let me play Saul Williams. I used to hump my pillow at night. Like I was like, I'm like playing some crazy music in here. Sassy at one point I was like, I'm gonna open with "You're a rich girl and you're going to," and I'm like, it's the Upper East Side.
Yes,
you love this song. Like I was kind of a cunt.
I love that word.
I should have been more like the business person that I am now. Okay, I was still very much the ADD artist. So I didn't have any systems in place. I wasn't eye on the prize. Like now I'm very much more a career woman, businesswoman. Like if I was in that role now, I would have been getting a client list. I would have been doing like, you know, keeping a catalog of everyone who came in the door and like knowing that when I'm ready to start my own thing, I know who to call. Like, you know, just rubbing elbows. And like, I've never been someone to be friends with somebody or to spend time with someone just because I wanted to pick their brain or get closer to what they were doing. I never sought out mentors, which, you know, to my detriment, I should have. But I also saw a lot of that as like, oh, that's gross. You know, so it took me longer.
What are you trying to say?
I mean, I don't know what you're getting out of this, but it's like
just a great story.
Free workouts.
Yes. No.
They're all on YouTube now. Have at it.
Shots. Okay. I want to kind of just then pivot after the
to interrupt though. You asked me what I got it, but what I got out of it is like came much later when I started to get scouted by other companies to do a larger role than just instruct. And so that's when like I was like, oh, people view me for this experience that I didn't value at all. So I didn't see my value until other people kind of showed it to me. Therapy. I'm in it now.
Respect.
So,
I love it. No. It's good.
Learning your self-worth.
It is.
Before other people show you.
Well, that's hard for a lot of people, you know.
It's hard. And in business, I feel like it's especially hard for women and like, I don't know.
It's true, though. It's true. I mean, we just live in this culture we have for a long time where, you know, women have got the short side of the stick, you know, and things are changing, right? So slowly but surely things change. And
it's important to talk about it. You know, I
Yeah.
keep on hearing you say it over and over again because it means a lot to you, but it also is true. It's facts. At the end of the day, it's facts. Ooh, that's the first time I said that, at the end of the day, because I say that shit a lot.
Is that
people,
a thing?
It is a thing, and it's the only thing that I was working on, right? And it's the first time. Shout out Tyler, whoever the fuck else called me out on it. Oh, Stephen Gizzy, my editor. Respect.
Hey.
One time only. All right.
Do you ever edit yourself?
I don't. Well, I do like the videos.
No, I mean, do you edit your podcast, or you edit the videos?
Like very little, very little.
But you watch it.
I've listened to some of them, but it's hard.
Okay, well,
it's hard.
I feel like I learned some of the most important life lessons about, like, most important things about myself from editing myself via all my YouTube channels. It taught me so much about, not someone else having to tell me, you say this a lot. I see it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I say a lot, or
yeah,
I pause a lot.
I get that. The videos I'm editing, you're actually the second video to go live on the podcast.
I'm so glad I did my hair.
Yes. Shout out to your hair.
I mean, I didn't do my hair, but I dyed it.
Okay. I want to jump forward, but what we're going to do real quick is we're going to take a break because I got to use the restroom.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll get you anything to drink or whatever you want. Okay.
Time for a message from our sponsors.
Yes. No, I never do that. No, fuck that. You ever listen to a great podcast and then right in the middle of it, when it gets deep, they throw in a fucking sponsor?
Look, you got to make money.
No, you do it before and you do it at the end. Fuck that. You hold your values, you hold your no. Unless you can pay me like $1 million, then maybe we'll talk.
Right. Everyone has a price.
Downward dog, upward dog. That's all I know.
When you're sitting all the time, it's like
that's why you got to have these tables that go up and down. You can
so
the
you
button
can
right
stand?
there. Yes.
What?
Yeah. That's what it's all about. Well, yeah, all of my at my offices, trade shows, all of them, all of my desks are
my mind is blown.
Autonomous desks, man. It's important.
That's cool.
Yes.
I haven't had desk jobs, so I don't know anything about desks.
Yeah. But, I guess my job isn't a desk job, but
this is kind of a desk-ish job.
What the fuck?
It's
desk job's like a 9 to 5.
I don't know. Whatever.
All right. Well, maybe. I guess.
I'm gonna have a 9 to 5 that isn't.
Yes. All right. We're gonna bring it back to your story. Okay. So we were talking earlier about the Amazing Race, and after that, because you had now moved to Los Angeles, when you got back from the Amazing Race, what happened next to you?
A flurry of red carpets and PR events and stuff like that. So it was very like, LA for me. And I just moved here. So I was like, oh, here's LA. And I was like,
crazy.
Loved it and hated it because I never felt comfortable on a red carpet ever. I'm not one of those people who could like stand there and pose.
I would hate that.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
And somebody hit me up. I can't remember who now. Was like, there's a bike team assembling. Do you still race? And I was like, well, I mean, I haven't been really. I've been doing this TV thing. And they're like, I mean, they're doing races in London, Barcelona, Milan.
Shit.
Are you interested? And I was like, I mean, sure. Give them my name, you know? And it's so crazy because it was the Red Hook Crit, which got started in Red Hook, Brooklyn, by a guy that I actually once shouldn't see if they say that. I was good friends with, but not that good friends with. We were homies. He was in the bike circle. David Trimble. Anyway.
Just said his name. It got worse and worse and worse.
Everybody knows who started that race series.
We're friends. We're not that friends. He's a piece of shit. His name's David Trimble.
He's a good human being.
Yeah, sort of.
He is a good. No,
I'm just joking.
So he started this bike race that turned into like a phenomenon. It got sponsored by Rockstar Games.
Damn.
And then he, I think he came from a family who did cycling and cycling events, so he had like sort of his footing in that. And then so he produced it in London, Barcelona, Milan. It got so popular in Europe because Europeans actually value cycling and they love it. So it was this big thing, and brands were starting to be like cycling brands, and we're starting to assemble like teams because there's real. It was being televised, like Red Bull, or I don't remember. It was being televised. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
So teams were getting assembled because these brands were like, we want to be seen. And so I just happened to fall into this because this coach was looking for someone because it's a fixed. I left out an important part. It's a fixed gear, brakeless fixed gear.
Oh, that's okay.
Which so he couldn't just pull from like professional cyclists.
No.
Because this didn't exist yet. It's a new form. You know, it's like when Red Bull Rampage is happening, you can't just grab any mountain biker. You have to grab like the one that's willing to like, who's also done trials and also like you just need a mixed bag of skills. Yeah. So this guy, Sean Burke, he was my cycling coach at the time. He was assembling a mixed bag of talent of like professional road racers, one triathlete who was just like strong as hell, and then like he was like, let me find someone who's raced fixed gear before. He's like, he got my name from someone. He's like, oh, she's been a messenger, great, she'll be able to get through a pack. Like he had a real knack for the same way Julie Rice kind of casted, you know, teachers. He had a really good knack at assembling this team, and he assembled the Aventon Factory team. I still race Aventon bikes or ride Aventon bikes, and we dominated for 4 years. We like won the series for 4 years. So it was like,
holy
all of a sudden
shit.
I'm being considered a professional cyclist.
What?
Like that happened overnight. Like,
oh my gosh.
yeah, that happened like overnight. Like big shout out to my teammates though, because they're kind of what I feel like. I mean, here I am also like just downplaying maybe. I'm sure I was a strong member of the team, yes. But my teammates were like fire. So I just was in amazing company, right? Wow. Like, and I brought like, you know, the people knew me from the street world. So there were a lot of followers of this race who weren't like, they weren't from the professional cycling world, they were from the street world. So like when we go to these races, they'd be like, Kym Nonstop, Kym Nonstop, Kym Nonstop.
Yeah.
Like I was the celebrity.
That's crazy.
And meanwhile, you had like a world champ racing on our team, and no one, like people were just like, I mean, not that they would get no love, but I would always get the most love. Of course,
obviously.
Which was wild. Yeah. Like, why am I getting the most love, right? I was never an athlete. So all of a sudden, I'm a professional athlete. Under Armour sponsoring me.
What the fuck?
Red Bull sponsoring me. Like, I'm like, what? Who am, like, it didn't even make any sense.
That's insane.
You know, it was wild. It was fast and furious. I gotta say, it was like, I think it was really like 4 hot years, and then it fizzled because the race series, Dave got burnt out, and he had been doing it for I think 9 years, and so he was just like, we're gonna take a hiatus, and his race had spawned all these other like, you know, spin-offs, and so but one by one I think a lot of them kind of fizzled. It was like the whole sport really like burned really brightly and then kind of fizzled. It still exists, so there's still fixed gear criterium racing, but it's just not as fire, and it's definitely segued more into gravel racing now, which is what I do now. But you know, it's just it was this crazy superstar athlete life that I just never thought I would be. Look at that.
I mean, that's just
that
crazy.
happened.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, and meanwhile, I was still teaching spin classes and like doing fitness.
Seriously?
So yeah.
Damn. So
nonstop.
Just like literally nonstop.
It's on brand.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is. I mean, when people listen to this, their mouths are going to be on the floor, especially like your followers.
I mean, maybe.
People. No, like straight up. How the fuck do you move to Los Angeles, like the Amazing Race and all that, and then all of a sudden now you're a professional bike racer?
Yeah,
I mean, like, and you didn't train for it, you know, your whole entire life, right? I mean, you did the messenger. I guess actually you did, but you didn't know you were.
I didn't know I was training for it. Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
right. And so now you've been able to build your life around all of this and build a persona and build an online personality. And when you go to these events, people, you know, look at you as someone special, and that's really fucking cool. Yeah. How does that feel though when all of this started happening, right? This celebrity status, was it hard for you to grip? Was it? Did you eat it up alive?
You're acting like it was like real, like people stopping me in the street.
No. But when you go to these events,
yeah. Well, the ADD brain has like, I have a challenge with like being surrounded by that many people and people talking to me. Yeah. You know, it's just like it's like overload, and it's kind of anxiety inducing. So I don't think people pick up on it because I have my switch that goes, hey, yeah, you want a photo? Sure, we'll have a photo. Yeah, what's your name? Oh, have a great, like, good luck, or have fun today. It's really nice meeting you. And then like 2 seconds later, I have no idea what happened or what I was doing or what's next. And I'm on to the next thing. It's just like, It's really insane. But other than that, like as soon as it's over, I'm just like, okay, decompress, you know? And but it didn't affect me in any negative way or like give me a big head or anything like that, because I was always very acutely aware of how much more talented my teammates were than I.
That's good.
I mean, here's the thing. When you're on a team, everyone has a role, right?
Yeah.
And I found my role was more as a domestique in cycling, is like the person on the team that does a lot of work but doesn't win. We're not the winners. We're not the people that cross the line first. We're the ones that like fuck up the peloton. I hesitated to use that. I was like, we fuck up the peloton. Like we get in there and we're like, I'm gonna attack, I'm gonna block, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna set you up to like, you know, that's we're chess pieces. So that's what we do, and that's where I found my spot. David Santos really helped me with that. He was like, you have a lot of endurance. Like I think it was from teaching spin for so many years. Like I'll teach 3 spin classes in a day and then I'll go on a training ride. And eventually my coach was like, you're doing too much. Like you're going to be faster if you rest. Did not know that. Light bulb. Like I was like, you're lying. But actually once I started resting, I was like, holy shit, I'm so much faster.
It's true.
All these things I just like didn't know, had to learn in my mid 30s. Like who would have if you had told me at any point in my life that at 35 years old, I was going to get a professional, like I was going to get sponsored as an athlete, I would have like just snorted in your face. Like, yeah, right, you're on something. Like that was such a crazy moment. It's just like,
especially for your life, because it was like, people train for this their whole life.
Yeah.
And you might have been training for it, not knowing that you were training for it, but then all of a sudden this shit starts to happen. It's one, it's exciting, but two, just kind of looking from the outset, it's fucking crazy. Yeah. It's so crazy.
It's kind of like,
but it's amazing.
I feel like it's like hitting a viral video. You're like, like if there's like let's say you're really good. Okay, you remember when you were in school and there was like that one kid that could do the Running Man really good.
Yes.
And all of a sudden everyone knew that kid's name.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I could ride a fixed gear bike really well. And I could go fast, and I had like no fear because I was like, this is second nature to me. It's just like kind of a not useful skill until it was. Yeah. And it burned really bright. There you go. Like, oh, here's my useless skill. Let me bring some fire.
But you bring other people happiness. So it's, joy and help other people.
Yeah. And I started a women's team. So I have like a women femtrans team called Kym Nonstop. And it was a Devo team, development team. And I got racers like, covered their expenses, got them into racing, got them bikes.
Wow.
And it's something I'm still continuing to do. And it's like a mission of mine to get more women, femme, trans, POCs, like opportunities in bike racing. Because it is, I think the cycling world is very aware of this. Maybe the outside world isn't, but it's a very white man sport. And, it takes money. You need to be able to afford the fancy bikes. You need to also like Tiger Woods kind of blew our minds because culturally, like who goes, hey buddies.
Hey dogs, thanks for barking while you're talking about something super fucking important.
No, it's okay. And like who goes out on these like bike rides? It's like the people who have, the money for the bikes and the culture. And like, there's a lot of, women are not encouraged to just like go out on bike rides. There's always someone to be like, aren't you scared of cars? Or like, aren't you scared to go out on your own? Or like, what if you get a flat tire? Or like, there's always someone to dissuade us.
Yes.
And like people of color, there's a cultural divide a lot of times with like, riding a bike for transportation is seen as you're poor.
Yeah.
Because a lot of third world countries are like, that's what you do if you're poor.
Yeah.
So, there's like, why would I ride a bike when I could have an Escalade? Like, why not? Of course you should drive the Escalade. It's a status symbol. And, if you're African-American in this country and you're riding a bike, people might just assume you're pour.
It's so crazy.
Which sucks, right?
It's
like,
fucking shitty.
Like, that's so messed up, right?
It is.
It's so messed up. So shout out to like, Aisha McGowan, Justin Williams. They are doing a lot to like raise awareness for like, Justin Williams was like the national champ, and he's from LA. So actually you should interview him.
I would love
amazing.
That. You better set that up.
He's amazing.
We'll talk after.
And Aisha too, but she's in Atlanta. So it's kind of a little hard.
Yeah. Well,
anyway, yeah.
No, that's amazing.
The sport is getting shook.
No, it's really
it needs to
fucking
be
cool.
shook.
What?
You said something really important. You're like, when you see an African American, a black person, right, riding a bike, people think that they're poor.
They might.
Right? They might.
Know?
No. They fucking do. Like,
right.
Let's just be honest.
Like, I'm just a white woman riding a bike, but like with orange hair, you might just think I'm a
Yeah, you're a hipster.
I'd be like,
right? You're
or she's poor.
Cool
Or she's she's a bartender.
Yeah. Well, for sure.
Whatever.
Right. And it's so crazy because I'm just gonna be fucking real, like I always am. When I got my brand new Lexus, right, and I would pull up and it was like the F Sport and it was fucking all decked out, right. There's a feeling that I felt inside because people are like, oh, that fucking car's cool, right? That car's cool.
People react to material things.
Right? And so if I pulled up in a beat up Honda Civic, what do people think?
Or if you pulled up on a Huffy.
Right?
Or like even
fucking
if you
Huffy, man. Yes.
If you pulled up on
if
you pulled up on a fixie though, like even if you pulled up on like a $5,000 bike in LA, nobody knows what a $5,000 bike is.
Nope.
LA needs to get off their car culture. Like people say this is like, I'm going to go on a soapbox for a second. People are like, you need a car in LA. Bullshit. I moved here I didn't have a car for 2 years. After that, I shared a car with my roommate, not because I needed to for money. I am really good with money. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's freaking managing my money. I could always afford a car. I just didn't want to have a car because the weather is beautiful every single day. And if I make it so easy for myself to just hop in a car and sit in traffic, like, of course I'm going to do that. Like, no, I wanted to ride my bike places. I wanted to encourage myself to ride my bike places. And it's so stupid the way people look at me when I'm riding a bike. I'm like, you don't know me.
Yeah,
like,
it's so fucking crazy, right?
LA is so dumb. They're like, you need a car. You don't need a car. It never rains.
Yeah.
Like, there's miles of bike path that are completely separate from the cars. Like, people are like, oh, there's no bike paths. That's because you drive. You don't know.
Yeah.
There's the Bayona Creek bike path that's like 8 miles completely separate from cars. There's the LA River bike path that's like 12 miles completely separate from cars, maybe more. You can ride literally completely through LA for like 50 something miles down to Manhattan Beach, and never even see a car.
It's so true. What's so funny? I want to point out two things.
And you'll get there faster.
Well, you will.
Maybe.
But when we talked, and you were gonna come on the podcast, you're like, oh, I'm gonna take the train, right? And then I was like, no, I'm gonna send you a fucking car. But I was like, damn, fucking, she's gonna take the train? That's so weird, right? Like,
does she not have a car?
Like, no. I never thought that at once.
Really?
I didn't think you were poor. I didn't think anything of that because I don't think that way, right? But I was like, fuck, that's awesome, because so one thing that I always like to do, my wife and I'll drag her along with me whenever we go to like different cities, states. When we traveled all throughout Europe for our honeymoon, we rode bikes everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, if she was in here right now, I'm a fucking bike fanatic. I want to ride bikes everywhere because the difference of hopping in a car or a train compared to riding a bike, for me, especially when you're going somewhere new, is you get to see everything. You get to experience things on such a different level. And you're right. You can ride bikes everywhere, I mean, pretty much everywhere, right? But most people are not going to. And it is what it is. And as we move forward in the future and cars drive themselves and all of this shit, that's a whole different story, right? Mm-hmm. But I kind of want to just dial back and bring it back to your story, right? You're going through all of this, the Amazing Race, then the 4 years traveling all over. At what point did social media and YouTube and all of this start to really take off? Or how did it even work?
That's a great question. I know I started my Instagram account when I was still in my band, and I like had that, boyfriend that we were like fighting all the time. Because like some of my first posts, and I never take them down because I think it's like tattoos. I don't cover up tattoos.
Oh really?
Because even though I've got some bad tattoos too. I should probably cover them up. But I don't know. I'm just like, that's who I was at the time. It's kind of like a scrapbook.
I get it.
So, I mean, I'm sure if I had something offensive, I would cover it up. But like, I was never a Nazi, so I'm cool on that front.
Oh, seriously?
I wasn't.
Oh my God.
But soundbite. I was never a Nazi. So darn.
That's good. That's gonna be the soundbite for this clip. You should hear the one for Will. I had Billy Bob Thornton's son on.
Oh my God.
I put it out today. The sound clip. I'm sure he hates me right now, but I love you, dude.
I saw it come out, and I was like, "Ooh, that looks good."
Yeah, it's fucking good. Talk a lot about mental illness and shit like that.
But like, I mean, I started Instagram just casually like anybody else. And I don't know at what point it started to blow up. I think that was like just super organic, gradual growth. I guess I was an early adopter.
Okay.
And then with YouTube, same thing. I got in before the flood.
Yeah.
And I wasn't making terrible content. I was making pretty good content.
Yes.
And it was very authentic.
Yeah.
It was like there was no filter.
Exactly.
And so that was, I remember, because I started my channel with 6 well-produced videos with lighting and someone else shooting it and editing it for me because I didn't really know what I was doing. But then I was like, hey, dude, I'm not going to be able to afford this. Him and his wife were helping me. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to afford this, Nate and Melissa. Like, teach me how to do this. I'll pay you for a day to just teach me.
Yes.
And so they did. And then, of course, it was like crap at first. But like my first crappy video had the most views.
Yes.
And I think because people were like, oh, she's doing this. It's not like a brand or a commercial. So
It's a huge difference.
Yeah. And then that just, that just kept going. I was consistent. I think people ask me, like, how do you become successful? I was consistent. I put out a video every single week religiously. I posted consistently. I was always consistently myself, honest and succinct. I didn't go on forever, unlike this podcast. No offense. Somebody's going to listen to this who wants it. My mom.
There's a
Shout out,
lot
Mom.
of people
Hey,
that will
Mom.
listen to it.
But yeah, it's just that's what I did, and it just worked for me.
For sure. No, I get it. Absolutely. I want to bring back something that you just said. Is it goes on forever, right? Yeah, you're right. These podcasts could be 45 minutes long, and maybe it would blow up a lot faster, right? But it wouldn't be true to the story. It wouldn't be true to my story. It
Yeah, I
wouldn't be
respect that.
organic, and it wouldn't be true to your story, because if we're going to tell bits and pieces of your story in 45 minutes compared to 2 hours, there's a huge fucking difference,
That's
right?
true. That's
and
true.
I'm going to say it again, at the end of the day, you guys got me.
It's
I swear.
okay.
No. When you say it every other sentence, it's
You
it's
said
a
it
lot.
twice now.
Yes,
Fine.
twice. I think last one I said 22 times. So it's a lot, right? But at the end of the day, 3 times. It's real and organic, and that's what made you likable. And no, it's true. I mean, because those 6 fucking awesomely edited ones and lights and all that shit compared to the one that you did that was real, it's important. What role has social media played for you in your life?
It's definitely a love-hate. I struggled with it for recently in the last couple of years. I struggled with it a lot because I was like, I don't like when people are on their phones all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing a podcast right now and there is a camera on, but when I'm talking to somebody face to face, this is how it goes.
Yeah.
I do not pick up my phone. My phone is always face down, do not disturb mode, because I really value human interaction.
Me too.
And I do see it disappearing in our culture. Not completely, but in a lot of instances, and especially in the younger generation, it's scary. And I'm like, how am I contributing to this? Also, materialism. We talked about that a bit. I was like, I don't want to promote anything that isn't going to make this world, am I making this world a better place at the end of the day? Yeah. And I asked myself that so much while I was doing it, because there was a point where after my injury, I was literally living off of my influencer freelance work. Like, I was a full-time influencer.
Yes.
Which the word makes me gag.
Why though?
And I heard your friend Tyler call them educators, and I was like, oh, that's so precious.
Well, it just depends. There are different. In the hair industry, there are definitely educator influencers.
I mean, I love the word educator,
Yeah.
but
okay, well, they're fucking influencers, sure, because of social media. But yeah, you know what? I think there's.
I mean,
good
if you
and
could
bad.
call me an educator, that's great. I've seen YouTubers that make math YouTube, which I'm like, that's really cool. You're an educator, but mine's I do educate you on how to fix your bike and how to do this and
What is that though? That's an educator.
Yeah, but that's not every video, and some videos are just
they're
here's
just
a
whatever.
bike race.
Yeah. I get it.
It's
I get
entertainment or
Sure,
it's experience,
absolutely.
so.
Whatever. He likes to spin things certain ways to make it sound
I'm
better.
not saying I like the way he
shit to
spins
gold.
things.
Yeah.
Turn shit to gold. You're doing it. I'm gonna learn. I'm learning.
That's why he's become so successful.
So.
Okay.
He's my next mentor. I got this.
Yes. Yeah. He's an awesome dude. He's a really freaking great dude to learn from, to kind of just push forward. All right, fuck you, Tyler.
He's actually a total dick in real life.
No, he really is a total dick. He's a total dick, but he's the best. If I say this, he's like the best dick that I know, because he's as real as they come, and I like that.
Okay.
I like that person. All right, fuck you, Tyler. Let's move on. All right. So going through all of this, right? Your 4 years of traveling around. What comes next? Where are you now with everything? Social media, just all of this. What came next?
So bike racing, like the height of the bike racing,
Yeah.
I would say it probably like took a pretty hard halt with my knee injury.
Yeah.
I did Leadville, which is the hardest mountain bike race in the country. No big deal.
Oh my God.
I mean, I didn't win it, but like I did it. It's one of those races where it's like I finished it, which is a huge feat, right?
Yes.
Like, and I finished it on the first try. So cool.
Good job.
Go me. Also, there's like thousands of racers registered. There were only 100 women, which is like, come on, really?
Why is that?
And I think there were 2 people of color.
Why?
Again, bike racing, very white sport.
Yeah.
But also, Leadville is an extremely challenging race. They have very strict time cutoffs.
Okay.
And they don't have them by category. They don't have them by age group. So it's like very discouraging, I think. I mean, it's kind of like you either run it with like all the white men, or you hit, or you're done. You're out. So like there's no like...
For sure.
There's no categories. So it's not an inclusive race. And I've criticized them about this before, and I think they're trying. But anyway, I did that. And then the week later, like I took my rest. I go up for my very next run, and I like slip, and I'm like, ooh, that didn't feel good. And I get down the mountain, and I go to Soulcycle, and I'm teaching at Soulcycle. And hold on. Can we stop for a second?
Yeah,
Can we
of course.
like cut?
Yeah,
Can we cut that?
I'm gonna cut it.
Okay, so that can't go in this,
For sure.
because Soulcycle covered my surgery, so I can't talk
Gangster.
about the crash before.
Okay. So wait, what do you want me to cut out?
The tweak on the mountain bike.
Okay.
So like,
That's
okay,
fine.
so I'll just restart.
Okay.
So I finished Leadville. I'm like, I got the medal. I go home. I have like a little bit of rest. I go back to work. I'm teaching a Soulcycle. I hop off the podium. I jump in the class. I'm stoked. I'm like, jump. I land weird. Something goes pop. I don't know what. I was like, my knee feels funny. Feels wobbly. Feels kind of fat. Next thing I know, I get back on the bike. I'm like, it's not working. Like, what's going on? I'm very confused. Pretty sure it did something, but maybe I just need ice. No. Fully fucking blew up my ACL. Like, full rupture of my ACL. So now I'm facing like the worst injury I've ever had. I don't know what to do. Wish I had broken a bone.
Yeah.
Like most cyclists break their collarbone. Like I popped my ACL like just like that, you know?
Getting old.
I mean, actually, some of it, there's a theory like my quads were probably burnt out from doing Leadville, and your quads and your hamstring system like support your knee. So I didn't have a lot of support because I was just exhausted. So I think I just I probably didn't rest enough. Anyway.
And once again.
So I'm out for a year and a half. Like that just puts a nail in my racing career. You can bounce back a little faster, especially if you're a cyclist, but I had like health insurance. I couldn't get the surgery right away. So like things just were tied up. And so during that time I was doing the influencer, like just trying to like hustle as an influencer. And this guy, Nate Jewell, connects with me, and he's like, I want to start a fitness studio. What are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm influencing, obviously.
I'm an influencer.
And I was like, I'm recovering from knee surgery. I think I was just getting my knee surgery when he hit me up, and I was like, talk to me in a month. And he was like, cool, I'm launching a mobile fitness studio. It's going to be the first in the world. It's never been done before. Do you want to create the workout for it and recruit the trainers and make this thing reality?
Holy shit.
And I was like, do I? Like, can I? And this goes back to the whole, like, knowing your worth, but, like, someone else has to validate it. And that's where I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I've never done that before. But then my friends were like, Kym, you created a whole program for bodybuilding.com. You've created workouts for Shape. You created workouts for your YouTube channel every single day. She was like, you've been there since, I do have a mentor, but she was like, you've been at Soulcycle since day one. You know so much about how the business works. You are an OG. Like, of course you're qualified. And I was like, you're right. I am qualified. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Yes.
I take this job.
Yes.
Never work for a startup. It's a startup. Like, we have, seed money and and there's all this stuff. And then like all of a sudden I'm just like, whoa, nose to the grindstone. Never been in this culture before. Like, don't really know. I'm totally overwhelmed. Like, what's going on? I'm working so much. I never get to work out anymore. What's happening to me? Like, it's just like all this stuff, like I'm the PR manager. I'm the trainer manager.
So many
I'm doing
hats.
this. I'm doing that. It was like literally doing all the jobs that Nate wasn't doing, and he was doing a lot of jobs, but there were a lot of jobs to be done. And we ended up, we launched in June, which is crazy. 6 months later, we had this thing built, the world's first mobile studio. And when I say this, like, you guys, if you haven't seen it, just look up Drift. It's Drift with a Y because Kym with a Y, duh. But he already had the name before he got me. It's like, but I just like to say that. Drift with a Y, DRYFT. And it's letsdrift.com is the website. But just like, go look up the Instagram, Let's Drift. It will blow your mind. It is not just like a van with some TRX bands. It's not what you're thinking. Everyone that sees it in person is like, whoa, like, wait a minute.
Holy shit.
This is what you're doing? Like, they're always like,
it's that crazy.
It was named most Instagrammable studio by ClassPass in all of the
Shut
country.
up.
All of the country. I mean, it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. The sound system's incredible. The trainers are amazing. Like, I can't say enough good stuff about this. And I guess I had a hand in it. So, like,
obviously,
I did that.
Yes.
It's really great. And it's I told him, I was like, we can't do cycling because I still was employed with Soulcycle. Currently, as of now, I'm no longer with Soulcycle. Very recent. I was just like, it's time to cut the cord, like the umbilical cord, But we couldn't do cycling because I can't compete with them. But I was like, rowing. Coming back from my ACL injury, rowing was one of the first things I could do, and it makes your joints stronger, not weaker. It's like a really great exercise for your whole entire body.
Jeez.
And it's hard as hell. Like, rowing is hard, but there's a way to make it fun. I was like, listen, this is hard, but I can make this fun. Soulcycle made stationary cycling fun. Like, I can do this. And so we do some choreography. We like have the music. It's time. Your intervals of time to the music. Like, you are in it. It's like very much like the best way to describe it is like Barry's boot camp, but with rowers.
Okay.
So, because you do half the floor is strength, and like, we call it the deck because you're outside. So it's like the deck and the crew. And that's the two sections of the room, and it's just 40 people in the space, and then it's open air, so you can have you have the view of like the water in Alcatraz. It's in San Francisco, and so that's the flagship is in San Francisco, and you have the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's amazing. It's really mind blowing. It's a very unique experience.
That's so cool.
It's expanding. It's happening.
I love that.
Things are going.
And you're still with them.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool. How long ago did you guys launch? Now?
June.
So literally this past June?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It's a baby.
That is so fucking cool.
We didn't have a regular spot until September. So I think we've only been like doing the thing in its actual form for a few months. And we just had our biggest month yet as far as turnout or referrals or 40% referral rate. It's a really great, and we don't have any like major money backing. Like, I mean, we had some seed money, but like, it wasn't like, it's not like the way Rumble goes out. We don't have Equinox behind us. It's kind of grassroots right now, which is what I loved about Soulcycle in the beginning. I love like the start of things.
Yeah, I can tell. I can see the way that you're talking about it, the way that
it's
your
a
eyes
beautiful
light
when
up.
everybody wears so many different hats and everybody is chipping in and everybody's a part of it. Like, every trainer that works at Drift right now is we call them founding instructors, and they're all like, they all have equity. It's kind of like, almost feels like a little bit like a cooperative, you know.
Yes,
it's like
yeah.
everyone is pitching in, and it's beautiful.
That's huge, though. You know what? You just everyone equity, right? They feel like they have a
Give
piece
them a
of
piece.
something. It's so big. It's so important, and it makes the individual work harder. One thing I want to dial back on is I told you that we would talk about your ACL at the beginning of the podcast. I told you we would get there.
It's not that interesting.
Yeah. No, it's not.
A ligament in your knee.
No. But then it led to something special, right? All of these things. So, what's next for you? What is next? Is there anything?
I'm gonna get married and have some babies.
Really?
I mean, that's like kind of something that I'm like, I did. All these things are shifting. The systems are in place for me to finally realize, like, oh, okay, it's okay. It's not like, the feminist in me is like, it's not a trap. It's okay. Like,
Yes,
you can
is.
You can have a kid too.
Of course.
Like, I think I needed to become the boss of something though, in order to allow myself. I had to be the boss first. Now I can have a kid. So like, that's kind of like on the horizon, dreaming about that, where that's gonna go. You know, just I want to own a house. I don't own a house yet. Like I kind of feel like success has not fully reached me, or I have not reached it until I own the house.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I've been investing. I'm doing like the money. I feel like I'm good with money. I could be better, but I'm like starting to really put my energy into understanding and like wealth management, and talk to my girlfriends about like, this is the salary I earn. Like, you know, just understanding, like talking about money and salary, and you know, what is your household making? Like, do you earn more than your husband? Or like all these dynamics of things that we haven't been talking about. And now I'm listening to money podcasts. And
Good for you.
That's what's next for me, is to like, okay, cool, I'm a boss, but like, I really want to be a boss.
Yeah. It's important. I had Paul Nelson on, and I have someone coming up as well, a gentleman by the name of Austin, who owns very successful like wealth management company, but really is focusing on the education part. And then Paul Nelson as well, I brought them on to really speak about this, right? Because it's not only just for women, but as a whole, as a nation, right? And especially the younger generation, when you're going to school, you're going to high school, right?
Why is this
not taught?
Like,
right?
what does algebra do for me?
What the fuck? Algebra, geometry, like most people are not going to use that. Most, right? But understanding about debt and understanding about just, I mean, all of the things that we need to use for our day-to-day life and set people up is not only going to help these individuals, but it will help the nation as a whole.
Right.
And for you, speaking with your girlfriends about it, it's so fucking important.
It's like, here's the thing. I didn't know this, but I had enough money to buy a house when I was like in my 20s. I didn't know though that it was even a possibility, because I didn't know like what it took. And I was just like, oh, that's something that, and growing up in New York too, and like living in New York City, I didn't know anyone else that owned a house or owned property. So why would I? Like, it just wasn't, it's like, it goes back also to like female athletes. Like, you can't be what you can't see is like a thing that people say. Like, visionaries that's why visionaries are so amazing, you know, trailblazers, people that are the first to do it. But like, for women, a lot of times, like, you know, you're growing up and you're like, you know, I don't see myself being the first human to trek Antarctica, because no human's done it. And also, women are always the second. And you know, a guy growing up in the inner city who is black might be like, I'm not going to be the lead singer of a punk band, even though I'd love to, but I've never seen it. So the more you see happening, so the more peers I have that like own property, and the more people I know that are like running businesses, it becomes easier and more accessible. And I have people I can ask questions to. But yeah, like, I didn't even know that I could buy a house back then, and I still can. I just like haven't found something, or like, it's just the logistics at this point. But like, you know, God, I could have, like, man, the housing crisis, like, I could have cashed in.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
And most people didn't know. Most people did not know, right?
Yeah.
So now you're at this really pivotal time in your life. Where,
also, sorry, interrupt.
Yeah,
you were saying about your friends that are wealth management and stuff, and they're men. No offense. I'm sure they're amazing, but like, guys, I notice when they talk about money, and this is also cultural, like it's ingrained for men to sound like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's attractive. Women want to know want a guy that knows what he's doing.
For
they
sure.
want to feel something that's in control, confidence. So when men talk about money, I've learned this actually when I started talking money to my guy friends. I'd be like, man, they sound like they really know what they're talking about. And then I hear what their personal finances are. And I'm like, you're a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't have your shit together.
Yeah.
I am doing so much better than you. And you sound like you're doing you sound like you own everything.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm not doing anything. And I roll up to a place on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks I'm poor. But I'm like, yeah, I've got money in the bank. I've got investments. Like,
yeah.
So I'm trying to own that a little bit more. Like, I am successful. Like, there it is.
And,
like,
and respect
I got
that. Respect that. But also know something. I'll make a rebuttal to it. I'll never bring anyone on to talk about wealth that isn't fucking bought. Like, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't.
And low key, I do want to talk to them because I want to know more.
Yeah.
Like,
no, they're
still new.
fucking amazing. But I'd also bring on a woman. I don't give a shit. Like, if it's a guy, girl, gay dude, I don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
I just want educated people talking about it that know their shit and then actually can back up their shit, right?
And even more so, like if you brought a woman on, I'd be more. I would listen to that podcast first.
Yeah.
In regards to financial, because I want to hear it from a woman's mouth.
Absolutely. Like, the number one podcast I have is from a woman. So right, yeah. So shout out to that, right? All right. So.
Was that the Tale of Two Titties?
Yeah, that is the Tale of Two Titties. Yeah.
Okay, the first
Milfy MacGyver.
8 minutes of that are gold. I didn't make it through the rest only because someone interrupted
it's like 6 hours long.
No, someone interrupted me, but that's why. But her holding up a mirror, parent, it's amazing.
She is
a smart woman.
She is a very smart woman, right? But you know, as we wrap this up, I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story. You are very intelligent, right? And we didn't even really know each other, right?
Not at all.
Penelope connected us, right? She's like, here are 5 people that you need to talk to, right? And 3 of them said yes to come on.
Amazing.
And one of them is you, right? And I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, right?
Yeah.
Because I do believe after listening to your story, well, it is very inspirational.
I mean, this has been super fun. So
thank you.
And I don't like talking like. I mean, it feels a little bit like we're at a bar, so it's okay. Like
that's the point.
But like, if there were people here, I would never have let this go on.
Yeah, I get it.
I'd been like, you guys don't want to hear all this. So literally, I mean, if they're at home, they can press pause. But I think your long form it's good. It challenges me. It's interesting.
You did good. You did really
well.
You did well. There's one more question I want to ask you though. Why is feminism so strong? Why is that like? I hear you keep on talking about it, right?
Because it's the only way I can say I had a disadvantage because I'm a woman. It's like that's the only thing I claim. And I'm short.
Yes.
I mean, I think my mom is pretty feminist. Like she retired a few years earlier than she expected to just now, like this year. Table flipping.
Seriously?
Yeah, because
fuck you, you're cool.
Yep. Because the doctor was like, you know, you like was totally condescending her, and she was just like, you know what? My husband and I had some finance talk last night, and we're good. So bye.
Bye.
And she's always been like that growing up. I think she's always just like shown me like go your own way, and she's a fiery person. She's an Italian woman, so
yes,
I get that from her, but I also get it from being in sports and not being in sports and not fitting in and just all that stuff. I think little things along the way I've just learned, like what got me to race a bike was one person encouraging me, and like culture. You can see the patterns culturally.
Yes.
People don't tell little girls, you're so strong, you're so athletic, you're so fast.
Yeah.
My friend, some of my friends disagree with me on this, but I very much agree. I very much believe that cultural socialization shapes who we become, and we have to be careful.
No,
I mean,
shit.
who would disagree with that? But sorry, some of my friends,
idiots.
Of my friends argue that's not true, but whatever.
Your surroundings based. Hold on, I don't mean to cut you off, but you ever hear that saying? You are like the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Right. Like what the fuck? So
I had to really change the people I was hanging out with.
Yeah.
when I heard
shit.
That.
I mean, it's so true. Like
I was like, ooh, you're cool, but like.
No, but go back to your story.
I mean, it's just even I catch myself. It's so dumb, but I catch myself doing it with my cats. I have a male cat and a female cat, and the female cat's a little rotund and like she's fluffy, and I'm like, you're so pretty. And I tell him, and he jumps around. He's very like, he's like Tigger. And I'm like, you're so athletic.
Yes.
It's like, if these were my children, which they are at the moment, but like, it's okay to say those things because that is their characteristics right now, but it's also encouraging and reinforcing
It is.
those characteristics.
I get that.
So as a parent, I hope that if I have a girl, that I'm not always saying, you're so pretty. Like,
I get that.
I really hope that I can
that.
just temper that a little.
Yeah.
And also be like, hey, that was really smart what you just said.
Yeah.
Or that's really clever. Oh, look, you're so strong. Like, I want to encourage those parts.
You're a badass bitch. You know, like straight up. No. But I get that. And as a society,
and we're good. We've come so far.
Come so far.
Right.
That was the point. It's like we have come so far. We have ways to go, right?
Yeah.
But we are moving in the right direction, right? Once again, thank you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And fuck yes. Give me a high five.
Hell yeah.
High five,
Thank you.
so sister.
All
Bring it in,
right.
Knuckles. And
Ooh,
blow that
Knuckles.
up.
Ooh, I hit you hard with my rings.
What? No, you didn't. You're so pretty. All right, people. Thank you so much.
You just got a
for
black eye.
listening, bitches. Have a good night. Peace out, motherfuckers. Wowza!